that black people had weaker lungs, which is why grueling work in the fields was essential, his words, to their progress. The effects of Cartwright's falsehood and others like it linger today in 2021. In 2016, researchers asked white medical students and residents about 15 alleged differences between black and white bodies. 40% of first-year medical students and 25% of residents said they believe black people have thicker skin, and 7% of all students and residents surveyed said black people have less sensitive nerve endings. The doctors in training who believe these myths, and they are myths, were less likely to prescribe adequate pain medication to black patients. To fight this kind of bias, hospitals urge doctors to rely on objective measures of health. Scientific equations tell physicians everything from how well your kidneys are working to whether or not you have a natural birth after C-section. They predict your risk of dying during heart surgery, evaluate brain damage, and measure your lung capacity. This is what's going on in America with us. But what if these equations are also racially biased? Race correction is the use of a patient's race in a scientific equation that can influence how they are treated. In other words, some diagnostic algorithms and risk predictor tools adjust or correct their results based on a person's race. I've gone through it myself in the doctor's office. She says, well, because you're diagnosed as diabetic, and even though your numbers are normal, and even though we know that there are patients who have gotten their numbers to normal and have lived without medication for years, we want to make sure you take this other medication for cholesterol, even though your cholesterol is not high, because diabetic is interlinked with heart disease for black patients. See where this is going? See where this is going? And so we have to be very mindful. We have to stand strongly and say, if my if my cholesterol level is normal, and my cholesterol level has been normal from ever since I can remember myself, if I don't have any heart issue, if my diabetes is under control and my numbers, my A1C has been normal now for over a year, why are you expecting me to take this medication? And so I've said, quite frankly, no, I'm not taking it. I will drink green lime and water, and 6 ounces of it every couple of hours, and that's what's been keeping me going, right? So the less amount of medication that we're pumped with, if we don't have to take it, right? So I'm not advocating that no one not take their medication. Listen to me. Hear what I'm saying to you. Do your research, right? When you're given a batch of medicine to take and it doesn't feel right to you, go and get a second and a third opinion. Ask for an opinion, because as you can see here, race correction is being used by doctors for the longest time. The other thing that annoys the hell out of me is that they look at our weight and call us obese, right? So they have been using the frame of a 5'4" petite white woman for I can't tell you how long to talk about what you should weigh. According to, I am 5'10", and according to the weight chart, I should be 130 something pounds. Are we serious right now? I would look like I was on crack. This is what I'm talking about. And I said this to the one doctor, the medical student that was in my doctor's office. I said, you must not look at us and make assumptions just from looking at us. I know people who are 200, 300 pounds that are low blood pressure, heart is fine, kidneys are fine. So you want to treat each patient individually and stop making assumptions about us based on our race, right? And what you've learned in medical school. So this is something that has been on my mind, and I'm going to come back to it in a little bit. Something else I want to talk about. Lord, so much is going on. So much is going on in these Wakandan streets that I just, so while riding my bicycle this morning, I get one of the folks that I ride with said to me, have you seen this thing on Carlos Vega? And I said, no, what thing? And she said to me, well, I'm going to send it to you so you can take a look at it. By the time I got back home, there were 3 other people who had sent the same thing to me. And so let me just say this to you in all fairness. I have not interviewed Carlos Vega. I know that he is running for the district attorney's seat along with Larry Krasner. When Larry Krasner was running 4 years ago, before I got into journalism, I endorsed him. This time around, I'm not endorsing a soul, clearly, because I'm a reporter, and so I'm staying out of the fray. But I also want to, in fairness, say to you, when the whole thing happened with Larry Krasner's chief investigator, literally, I was very open and transparent and calling folks out and saying this is not right, etc., etc. So what I'm about to read to you is going to be really interesting, right? So, Channel 10, NBC, wrote a whole piece about him, and it says, who is the man running for Philly DA against Larry Krasner? And they went into all of this stuff around, the career prosecutor. Let me just read this for you. Let me read this for you because I started. I want to read this before I read the other piece that was sent to me. Carlos Vega, a former district attorney for decades in Philadelphia, believes current district attorney Larry Krasner has gone too far in his criminal justice reforms. Vega, who was fired along with 36 other veteran prosecutors when Krasner took office in 2018, thinks he can continue to reform the system in Philadelphia while also punishing the criminal element behind the historically high number of homicides and shootings. I am that third wave, he says. I am that person who believes that we need reform and we need safety. We deserve both, Vega said in an interview with NBC 10. I am that third choice, which is to say, I am going to bring reform because I hear you, I've lived it, but I need to make you safe because I've lived it. And he is referring to previous approaches to law enforcement and criminal justice, the lock-em-up approach that led to mass incarceration for decades, and more recently, the progressive reforms of Krasner and other recently elected DAs in some American cities. Vega grew up in South Bronx, New York City before going to law school, etc., etc., etc. He made Philadelphia his home 35 years ago. He's the only challenger Krasner faces in the May 18th Democratic primary. So Krasner, meanwhile, is trying to portray Vega as an obstacle to the progressive movement reshaping criminal justice in America, someone who would undo much of what Krasner's supporters believe as strong gains made in the last 3 years for Philadelphia's people of color. So I go digging. Because I started looking up these articles because something else happened, and this is being shared all over Facebook. Let me find this for you, and so you can. Lord, what is wrong with these people? Stop texting me. Let me find it because I want to make sure. So this was written by Sean King yesterday at 10:02 a.m. And here he has a picture of Carlos Vega, and this is why. So when I finish reading this, I want Carlos Vega, if anybody is in his camp, to pick up the phone and call me, because these are some serious allegations. Sean King says, what you are looking at is evil personified, and he's duping good people into believing otherwise. His name is Carlos Vega, and I can't even believe that what I'm about to say, what I really have to say here, that this man is a monster. He was fired from the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office for gross misconduct after 35 years of working in a department that literally framed and wrongly convicted black men all over the city, and now he has decided that he's running to be the DA. Guess who his main backers are? The local FOP police union that backed Trump. The police union needs Vega elected because he will never hold them accountable, just like he never held them accountable for the 35 years he was in office. The only thing keeping this man from losing his law license or going to jail himself are laws that protect all prosecutors from ever being held accountable. Right now, I know at least 20 different men who combined lost over 500 years of their lives because they were wrongly convicted by the homicide division of the DA's office when Carlos Vega was there. Vega worked in that department from 1982 until 2017. Those 35 years are the literal 35 years that mass incarceration exploded in this country and exploded in Philadelphia, making it the single most incarcerated large city in America. And so he's telling people to stop this man, blah, 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 blah. Said the local media never covered it. And so I wanted to read the first piece that NBC wrote about him, and then I wanted to talk about this piece. And if there's anybody in Carlos Vega's camp, because I'm telling you, this thing is floating around so much, I got it 4 times in an hour. 4 times. There's another piece that was written that I'm just not going to address it because it's just more of just denigrating Carlos Vega and his record. And so if there's anybody that knows him and is in his camp that we can speak to him about any of this, please tell them to feel free to reach out to me, because if we're not addressing this, then, you know, this is just going to cause a whole lot of rift in here. I also have not interviewed D.A. Krasner since he's talked about running for office. I've not interviewed him about running for re-election, but if he wants to come on too, hey, let's talk about it. There's fair reporting going on. Reach out to the station, tell them you want to come on here, and we will have, yep. See here, people on WURD are telling me that they've heard the same thing too. And so let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on here so we can move forward. All right, let me leave Carlos Vega alone. Wow, it was just a lot. And you know, I'm also not a fan of Sean King. So let me I read things to you, but I always try to be in the most authentic space possible, and my not being a fan of him is just because of some things that I've seen him write and do over the years. So I try to take his stuff with a grain of salt before, you know, going all the way over, which is why I'm asking for someone from Vega's team to get back to me so I can talk to them about this, because he's levying some serious charges here, and it's no fun. Yesterday, I reported about the bones from the MOVE members' children. What I've come to understand is that one of the people who spoke at the news conference, one of those bones, a 13-year-old boy, is her son. And so the University of Pennsylvania, Vinnie Vella and Mensa Dean, wrote this for the Philadelphia Inquirer yesterday. The University of Pennsylvania apologized to members of MOVE on Monday for using the remains of one of the group's members as a case study in its anthropology classes rather than returning them to the family. Quote, "We understand the importance of reuniting the remains with the family, and we are working now to find a respectful, consultative resolution," a university spokesperson said. "We are reassessing our practices of collecting, stewarding, displaying, and researching human remains." The university said it has launched an investigation into why the remains were kept there for so many years and had hired former Temple Law School Dean Carl Singley and his colleague Joe Tucker to lead the probe. One of the first things the investigation may have to determine: where are the remains? The remains, a pelvic bone and part of a femur, have been shuttled back and forth between Penn and Princeton University. The executive director of the Penn Museum told the Inquirer last week that they had been returned to Alan Mann, a retired anthropologist who was hired by the city to examine them after the bombing. Mann, in an interview Monday outside his home near Princeton, said he doesn't have the remains and hasn't seen them in more than a decade. So what are we playing? Pass the bones? "I would have given them back years ago if anyone had asked me," Mann said. "There's absolutely no reason for us to keep them. They should be given back." A Penn spokesperson did not return a request for comment on Mann's assertions. So we're going to figure out what's happening. Meanwhile, members of MOVE, the West Philadelphia-based radical organization whose compound was bombed by the city in 1985 in a conflagration. I see, it's my Jamaican accent again. Conflagration that killed 11, accused the city and the Penn Museum of mishandling and disrespecting the remains of at least one child who died in the blast. And they rejected the museum's apology at a news conference on Monday at the group's West Philadelphia office, calling it empty words offered by an untrustworthy institution 36 years late. Well, there we go. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is a number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest-rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for May is Living in Color by Tommy Davidson. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, May 11th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit WURDradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. While I wait for Pastor Waller to call in, I'm going to share this thing for you guys so you can see it. So much is going on over here in these streets. Let me find it for you, because I want to make sure that I give this to you. Oh, you're sending Pastor Waller the new Zoom link. Okay, no problem. No problem. He just called. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right, Pastor Waller. We'll wait to hear from you. So I just put in the piece for you guys. I am drinking water. I am drinking water. I am drinking water. I'm drinking water as much as I can drink water. You know, the problem, I think, Joseph, is that I only slept for 3 hours last night, so I'm fighting it. But I'm going to get some good sleep tonight. All right. So let's see now. I read this piece on, let me see, there's something else that I wanted to share with you. Oh, Pennsylvania, I'm trying to tell you, will lose a congressional seat through the 2020 reapportionment, right? And so this was sent out today. The U.S. Census Bureau announced Monday that Pennsylvania will lose a seat in Congress next year, complicating what's sure to be a contested redistricting process for the 2022 congressional races. Let me just make sure that Pastor Waller's not on yet. Michael, just let me know, please, when he's on. The 2020 census found that Pennsylvania's population grew by 2.4% over the past decade to 13,002,700 residents. However, that lags the nationwide 7.4 growth rate. With the House of Representatives limited to 435 seats, Pennsylvania will have to shed one of its 18 seats when the next Congress is sworn into office in 2023. Pennsylvania was one of 7 states to lose a seat, along with California, Illinois, Michigan, New York, Ohio, and West Virginia. Meanwhile, Colorado, Florida, Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon each gained a seat, while Texas gained 2 seats. Monday's news was a little shock to observers, as population shifts have been robbing Pennsylvania of political clout for decades. I was in a meeting with the National Cares Mentoring Movement, where Charles and he said we can literally shift how things are run in this country by just moving to certain places. And he talked about when the hippies moved to Maine and Vermont how many years ago, and it went from a staunchly Republican state to a fully Democratic place. And this is what they're talking about, right? In the 1920s, the state had 36 representatives, but that figure has steadily fallen because Pennsylvania's stagnant population and growth in the West and the South. Can we talk about it and be about it? We've been having the, hi, Pastor Waller.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Listen, couple of things that we need to talk about. We're going to talk about the fact that we're losing a congressional seat.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Carlos Vega. I don't know if you heard me discussing these charges that Sean King levied against him, that he was a part of the locking up, the mass incarceration of black men when he was an assistant district attorney. And then the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about, though, is that someone called in yesterday about a woman that lives in her car right alongside your church. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do.
Yes, and so people from your church explained that some of your pastors had gone out and tried to help her. I stopped and tried to help her, right? So I feel like there's some mental health issues there. And the caller that called in said, well, what is your church doing about it? So I was glad. I knew you were coming on, so I wanted to have this conversation. What do you know about her, and what can we do to support her?
Well, I want to try to honor her privacy. And what I would say to everyone is we have reached out to her to help connect her with resources, to give her resources, to give her options other than her car. Yes. All of these things have been met with she does not want them.
Right.
And I want to be very careful. I have not made a diagnosis,
right.
And I am not the one to make that diagnosis. But we try to include her in any and everything that we do, right. And any way that we can reach out to her.
Okay.
And so I don't know what all of that is.
Right.
And she is making a choice to be there. And but we have on numerous occasions, anytime you've seen us with a food, right. And also other resources to right. say, is there something or someone we can call? Is there something we can do for you?
Right.
You want another option? And at this point, each of those efforts have been we've been said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And we want to be really careful given this time and season. You don't want to call the police.
Right.
You don't want to get into that thing. And I don't want to project onto her. That would not be a choice I would want to make for my life.
Right.
But that is seemingly, and I want to be real careful with how I say this.
Yes.
It seems that this is the choice that she is making at this time. So we do keep an eye on her. And we are able also with our level of security, we can watch over her right now. And so not watch her. I need you to hear me. Watch over her. Okay. So if she chooses to stay in that car, there is a camera that can see. And if something were to happen to her, we could respond to that.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where that is. And I don't know the answer to that other than keep on loving her.
Yes.
And maybe establishing that we are here for her whenever she's ready to take advantage of another option.
Okay. I agree. I stopped several times myself coming home from my bike ride, and you know, she a kindness, and I automatically assumed that you all were not calling the police on purpose, right? Because she had been there, and I kind of figured you all saw them. But when the person saw her, when the person called yesterday, said, "Let me dig into this. I'll ask Pastor Waller." Okay, thank you for answering that. Appreciate it, and we'll make sure that she's okay moving forward.
Exactly.
And that she needs
and if
help.
somebody has any idea, has an idea of what we can do without calling the police,
right?
Because we view her as a sister and someone who is trying to figure this thing out, and so we'd rather not her get in trouble,
right?
And we'd rather give her another option.
Right. Good. I'm glad to hear. Speaking of mental health, there was a white woman on CNBC last night or the night before who said that she's very concerned because she has a son who is paranoid schizophrenic, and he was having a crisis, and she had to literally step in front of the police officer and say, "Don't shoot him." And what she then said next was this: "This is a time where I am just grateful to God that we're not black people, because had he been black, this would have ended very differently." And so what do we do in terms of mental health for our young people? We want to call for help, but we don't want to call for help. You know, what other options should we use out here?
Well, I think first of all, we have to normalize the conversation. Mental health illness is real. I think we have to normalize the conversation within the context of the Black religious community, because mental health illness can often hide out in religious context. And I'm not trying, I want to be very weighted with this, because some of what we call holy is less than mentally stable and sound. That's right. And yet, the very same thing can be an authentic experience in someone. That's why in the Bible, when on Acts, the 2nd chapter, on the day of Pentecost, when they saw how they were acting, remember, someone said they drunk. And there's something to be said for that, because there is a place in God, and there is a joy in God and in the experience of the holy that can look to outsiders as unstable. And because of that, the ability for a counterfeit of that to hide out is possible. And so often in church, not often, there are experiences in church where people who really need mental health intervention can hide out under the guise of religious. So we gotta be honest about that in all of our contexts, that mental health illness is a real issue. Some of it is trauma. Some of it is the epigenetic realities of what we as Black people have been through for 400 years in America. If I can look like my great grandfather, I can grieve for what he went through as well and can respond to that. So all of that stuff is real. And we have to be able to say that someone in a mental health crisis is not an evil person.
Right.
And your family should not be forever stigmatized because Uncle Pete has a problem. So we got to have that conversation in general. And then we have to be honest and call it what it is. And then engage it. You know, people need to get help. And help may be psychopharmacology for the rest of your life. And help may be other types of intervention and therapeutic intervention. And we have to be honest about that. And help may mean that because of this, you forever are locked out of this, but not locked out of that. And those are hard conversations, because every one of us knows a very kind person who is mentally unstable, wouldn't hurt a fly, and we love them. What I think and I don't want to go too far outside of my discipline, but what I think we also need to accept is that often these things, mental health illness, can be progressive. And because it is progressive, if it is untreated, that individual can then get to a point where he or she is a danger to himself and those around. And it is our responsibility to engage it early so that the police don't have to engage it later. So it's all of our responsibility to call it what it is. But in order to call it what it is, we also have to accept that norms exist, and that there is something called socially accepted behavior. And there are, and you know, as we move into a time of relative ethics where I was just listening to a song, I think it was Kiki Shepherd singing the song, "Don't Judge Me." And I get what she's trying to say, but in our communal language, we have to have language and community expectations so that when some of us begin to brush up against the lines of it, we can help you. But if everything is okay and nothing is abnormal, then how do we help define when you might be in trouble? And you know, it's a hard conversation. It's and everything from mental health illness to the, you know, there's a thing in alcoholism where, you know, an alcoholic will begin to drink with inferiors because their friends are calling them on, you know, that's your fourth Cavassier tonight. And because you don't want to hear it, you will then run off to find somebody who's just so enamored with being with you that they won't care about what you're doing and drink. And therefore you lose the community's taboo, or the community's saying to you, this is not okay. And so we have to accept that in our community, it exists. We have to accept that a community needs standards so that when we bump into them, we can gracefully say to our brothers and sisters, let me help you, and do this way before we ever have to make a phone call.
Yeah. So I agree with you on the normalizing these standards so that families can talk about them, so that it doesn't feel like it's that thing that we're hiding, that spook in the corner that we don't want to talk about until it becomes something that we can't hide or manage. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, I'd like us to talk about the census and the fact that we're losing a congressional seat and this election that's coming up. Can you hold 1 second?
Absolutely.
For me, please? All right. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. We are people of resilience. No matter what happens, We fight through the pain. We protect our traditions. We uphold our excellence. So let's protect our lives. With vaccines, we can trust. We can do this.
To learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Spring forward with premium nutrition meals. Enjoy a variety of new exciting entrees along with rewards and referrals program that pays you to eat and tell. As always, everything is chef crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered to your door. Just visit premiumnutritionmeals.com, where listeners get $10 off 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
Livelihood, WURD Radio's new initiative, connecting Black Philadelphians with jobs, entrepreneurship resources, small business development information, and financial literacy tools. Tune in to WURD Radio for our weekly livelihood segments and every weekday show. For a full schedule, visit wordradio.com/livelihood. For more information on livelihood, visit wordworks.com. That's WURDWORKS.com.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on wordradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have on the line with me the Reverend Dr. Alan E. Waller, who is the senior pastor of Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church. I forgot to introduce you properly when we first got on the air. And so we've been talking about mental health and, what we should do in certain instances there. The next question that I have for you is around the census, right? You and I spent weeks last year trying to get people to register for the census. To what do you attribute what's happening now? And let me tell you why I'm asking you this question. In Arizona right now, the group of Republicans have pulled together their own independent audit of the elections. They're still pulling this stuff, right? News reporters can't get in there, and they're saying that, they're doing these unprecedented things. What do you think is about to come out of this census? Do you think it was skewed? Do you think it's being fairly done? I mean, based on what you can tell me, I know you have to be very careful, but.
Yeah, I mean, what I think we need to realize is that census and voting and registering, all that is very important. Mm-hmm. Democracy is built on some real basic stuff. And right now, for lack of a better word, the other side is doing, the scared white people about the browning of America, is that they are calling tech on everything. Mm-hmm. And so, I think we represented at about 62% in the census in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And when you combine that with the fact that the states that lost were really the states in the Rust Belts. Yes. So let me give as an example. My first church was in a little town called Donora, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. That at the height of, there was a time when Donora had 20,000 people living in the little town. When I pastored there were 4,000 people. Mm-hmm. And people just are continuing to move out because there are no jobs. Yes. So they're just leaving these small towns. Some people like Youngstown, Ohio, and Lordstown, Ohio. Mm-hmm. So people are leaving. Mm-hmm. And then when you add people leaving the little towns, and then you add people in Philadelphia choosing not to register for the census, or when you think about some of the things that we know happens with the border of our states, there are things that are more attractive to live in Delaware and more attractive to live in New Jersey and on all of our borders, taxes, gas, all that. So you've got people moving out of Pennsylvania, and that's what happens. Our congressional representation is based on the numbers. Yes. And right now, the other side wants to not lose power, so they are being picayune about it, and they are coming after the numbers. Now, they're probably going to come up with some foolishness over in Arizona to prove what they think is the election being stolen, which everybody knows it wasn't. But they're going to keep this hoax up because there is a scared following that will believe anything that keeps the lie of white supremacy and America as a white nation under God. So I think we need to recognize the war that we have to fight right now is in registering to vote, is in keeping up with the census. There won't be another census for another 10 years.
Which is what we
and
kept
those
saying.
numbers, right, and those numbers will impact what federal dollars we get. And not signing up, not filling out now changes how many electoral college votes we have, because it's based on the number of congressmen plus the 2 senators.
Yep.
That's how we get our number. We lost one, and some of these other states gained one.
Right, like Texas gained 2.
Texas
right?
gained, that's right.
Lots of young people are flying from all over the country and moving to Austin, Texas.
That's right.
And so they have gained quite a few people. And so this is one of the things why we want to hold the people that live here accountable for registering for the census. We also want to hold our elected leaders accountable for making sure that these where we live remains attractive to keep us. Both my children rolled out of Pennsylvania. They're like, nope, not staying, right?
Yeah.
And so we are seeing that happening more and more. And for those of us who want to have our grandchildren nearby, like, come on, Pennsylvania, can we do something about this? So the elections are coming up. We have a little bit over a week for being able to register to vote. I think May 4th is the last time that you can do this. And so do you feel any excitement around this? I keep talking about it, and I'm not feeling any energy around the elections.
Yeah, the sad reality there's not a lot of energy. It is a primary, and I don't know what that's about. I think we have to keep on talking about it because this one is significant. We're dealing with judges, we're dealing with a DA, and we're dealing with judges and a DA in the context of a city where the questions around law enforcement and in a state where questions around gerrymandering and, you know, prison pipeline, all of that is on the ballot this time. You know, the sad reality of this DA's race, and we talked about it before, the die is pretty cast. I mean, the choice is an obvious choice, and quite frankly, there's not a good choice in the race. There's just one that's probably better than the other. You know, and there's a hard conversation we have to have in Philadelphia in general and in our own community. And I need to be real careful with how I say this, because on the one hand, we don't want to return to the days of the mass incarceration and, you know, that thing. But neither do we want to live in a season when fellas go to jail and say, well, I'm here on the Larry special. Because they know that
in the Sam Hill is a Larry special.
Larry special. Well, I'm not going to get in too much trouble for this, and I won't be here long. And that's you know, somewhere in the middle of this, we got to be honest about it, and we got to have a real hard conversation. And so, you know, I probably think that it's probably easier to have a hard conversation with Larry Krasner about where can we find the middle ground between this far left liberal policies and some accountability. And, you know, where is that? And we certainly don't want to return to the Rizzo days. You know, so somewhere in between those extremes. And, you know, how do we in the African American community have this hard conversation? You know, the easy thing to do right now is point at police and say, stop killing. That's real, it's issue, and it's easy. The hard thing is to have the conversation about the 400 people that have been shot here in Philly that did not die, that have been shot by people that look like them. And the hard thing is, how do we have that conversation? How do we talk as men about our responsibility to these boys who are doing the shooting? And and how do we, in a don't snitch culture, balance our righteous indignation with what we know the system has done, with our lack of emotion and commitment to dealing with our own internalized pathology. And I want to be real careful, because the last thing I want to do is sound like the old preacher who's Step and Fetch It or any of the Uncle Tom stuff, and I'm not going to beat up on my own people.
Right.
But we have to have the conversation about what we do to ourselves and how we're complicit in our demise.
I hear you. I hear you. So this is a good conversation today. You got a lot in. I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Someone, Joseph Simmons, wrote that Larry needs more black ADAs. His office is way too white. Needs to visit all the HBCU law schools. I don't know if that's the answer, but, you know, we'll figure it out. I'll have Kier Bradford Gray on before she goes to work for her new organization to talk about what it's like, you know, being someone in that kind of powerful seat and the challenges that she faces, you know, and that people like her face trying to deal with a board and everything else that's happening around them, you know. It's not as simple as just putting more black people in. It's putting them in and then finding a way to make sure that they're safe in as they're doing their work moving forward. It's a lot. It's a lot that's happening to us out here. But I want to thank you. We'll have more to discuss next week because life is shifting as we speak.
That's right.
So you have a good one. Okay. Thank you so much, Pastor Waller.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, man. Let me quickly take Clyde from South Philly. Clyde, are you there?
Yes, how you doing? Thank you for taking my call.
What's going on, sir? Thank you for waiting.
No, I was listening to you talking about the mental health factor, and this is probably a little known fact that, you know, unknown fact in our community that people are not aware of. Anytime that there's somebody in mental distress or having a mental episode, and they make the call to the police department, you can ask for a CIT trained officer on site.
A CI what, sir?
A CIT officer on site.
CIT officer, okay.
Yes, that's a crisis intervention trained officer. Now, the interesting thing about it is that this is in their directives. This is in the police department directives. It's Directive 10.9, if I can recall. And it states that time is of no essence in Part B. So about 80 to 90% of police departments across this country have CIT trained officers. So when people make those calls and they see people in distress, make sure you ask for a CIT officer, because I had that training. And in fact, the training was free at the Red Cross, because I worked in Norristown Hospital, and I also worked with at-risk kids. So we was required to have this training. And the training I got at the time a few years ago was free. So, I mean, that's where you will listen to audience. If, you know, you see people in distress, you can ask for a CIT officer on site. In fact, when the young man
Wallace.
If you notice, when Shaka Johnson was on the press conference, he stated that a CIT officer should have been called. So they're well aware of it. We're not aware of it.
Right.
So I just wanted to chime in with that.
Thank you, Clyde. And, you know, there's something else, as I'm listening to you talk, there's something else that stood out for me when I was watching the folks in Arizona. They know the Constitution and they work it like a well-oiled machine. We have to learn it too, right? We have to learn and know what is going on around us, because we're so inundated with all the craziness that's happening with us. We can't, you read the Constitution, the folks have been using the Constitution and saying, they said things like, in Arizona, we had the right. There was nothing on the books that said we couldn't do this. So here we are in Arizona doing it, right? But folks don't want to read the laws so they know how to navigate around them and do what they need to have done. So thank you.
I hate to say this too, is that, you know, we become lazy learners and Google researchers, and it's sad. And the interesting thing during this entire pandemic is that all the libraries was closed.
Yep.
All libraries was closed. So, you know, like you said, we need to read the Constitution. I mean, you know, I learned about it and basically in middle school and then thoroughly, you know, in high school. And, you know, when people recite case law when they're doing cases, I mean, that's an avenue to explore too, because we don't do that enough. You know, it's particularly, you know, particularly the Dred Scott decision. And, you know, people read the thing or they hear excerpts, but they don't read that entire case.
Absolutely.
That real entire case is ugly. And if you look at the language, you'll understand what is going on right now. You will thoroughly understand what's going on right now. It's like you have a Supreme Court justice sitting there saying that no black man has any rights that a white man is bound to respect. Now, that has never been repealed or amended.
Never.
At all.
Yep.
So, you know, we have to look at the times and like you said, the Constitution is clear. It's clear as day. So, but we became lazy learners. You know, we caught up in this entertainment stuff, and it's part of the things that's killing us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate listening to your viewpoints today. Have a good one. All right, bye-bye.
You have a better one.
All right. Thank you. So from 2 o'clock to 2:20 belongs to the WURD listeners. You can call in before I have my next guest. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
What's up, Philly? It's sincerely Sarita. The world is inching back to normalcy, but our approach to educating our children may never be the same. Commonwealth Charter Academy, or CCA, has nearly 20 years of experience providing a flexible, stable, online education in the comfort of your home. Enroll today at ccaeducate.me. Here are the benefits to your children and your family. Number 1, world-class education and accredited lesson plans streamed directly into your home at no cost to you. Number 2, laptops, headphones, and high-speed internet access, all provided at no cost to you. And number 3, a learning environment completely free from classroom risks like bullying and other distractions. CCA has been in our community long before this health crisis and will continue to faithfully serve students and families well into the future. Join the more than 2,500 students from Philly who already attend CCA. Enroll now at ccaeducate.me.
The Pennsylvania Horticultural Society supports WURD and presents the 2021 Philadelphia Flower Show, Habitat Nature's Masterpiece, June 5th to 13th. Now blooming outdoors for the first time ever at FDR Park in South Philadelphia. Safely enjoy 15 acres of blooming gardens and artful floral displays, shopping, entertainment, and new food and beverage options, including park picnics and beer gardens, taking place outdoors this summer. Tickets and details available at phsonline.org.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
This is pandemic time, a time to think about many things like I felt when President Obama was in charge, our 44th president. You did a real good job, and we thank you very much. Memories are good. Right now, President Obama is mourning the death of his grandmother, Mama Sarah. He calls her Granny. We mourn with you, President Obama, you and your family. Somehow, a miracle is taking place. Do you recognize that miracle, Obama? Well, here's one. Grandma Sarah lived to see her grandchild become a president of the United States. I believe in miracles. Kawesa could sing that song. I bet you Kawesa could sing that song. I believe in miracles. Thank you, God, for the blessing.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. I think you better call Tyrone. Hi, Tyrone.
Call him.
How are
Hello,
you, my brother? How are you, darling? I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on?
Well, I've been listening, Mother, and just
What is that noise? Hold on, Tyrone. Hold on. Sorry, go ahead, Tyrone.
Okay, a couple of times I tried to get in, but wasn't able to. But you know, Mother, I was calling. I wanted to add a little to the conversation that you had just had with my great brother, Brother Wilder. You know, I don't care what folks call up and say about that brother. That brother is doing more than a whole lot of other people, especially those folks that ain't doing nothing but talking. So I just want to say that. But Mother, two things. One, there have been a lot of folks calling, and I'm pretty sure I can say Caucasian folks, talking about, you know, the shooting and what happens with, you know, black folks in our community. And then you have folks calling, talking about how the police department has been infiltrated by this, that, and the other.
Oh, and all of that? Where are they calling? Thank the Lord they're not calling me.
Well, the thing is, Mother, that's where I feel that the courts need to be, you know, more righteous when they are, you know, dealing with this stuff called the legal system or the justice system.
Okay.
Because if someone is able to, you know, let's say, and again, I don't want to single out the police department, but I'm going to single out the police department simply because, you know, you kill a 12-year-old in the store, you choke somebody to death, you put your knee on somebody to death, and they get loose. I mean, thank God that we finally got a verdict with this man putting his knee on the neck of another man till he's dead, and he was, well, found guilty. We don't know what the sentence is going to be, but just the idea that the judicial system needs to be a filter for when folks do something inhumane or outside of the police regulations, and they can get away with it. Of course, it's going to continue.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Tyrone. Do you think there is ever a space where police can work with the citizens?
Say that again.
Do you think there's a space in these United States where police can actually work with the citizens? Because there are a lot of great police officers out here that are just lumped in with everybody else. There's a systemic change that needs to happen. But don't you do you or anyone else think that there's a space for folks in communities to work with police officers?
Well, Mother, you know I believe it because I've been on the police PDAC, that's the police advisory, the police district advisory council for over 40 years. And the reason why I have been on it and continue to remain on it, matter of fact, I am the president of the 22nd the PDAC. And the reason why is because I'm pushing for that. I'm pushing for the communities and the police districts to be more working together, because when things go haywire in the community, you got to call the police department.
Right.
Now, when the police come, you want them to come with some sense of humanity to try to, quell the situation instead of making the situation, that more explosive. So yes, and especially when we look at our history in terms of how we have been treated over time. And now I believe that treatment of the inhumane treatment that we have received over time that kind of filter into some of our young people. That's why they can shoot up a community. They can shoot up, a basketball game. It's because that inhumanity that we have suffered over time have filtered into their psyche. And so, of course, I'm going to be supportive. And as you know, I call up all the time, and I don't care how folks feel about what I believe. I support the police commissioner because she came into a situation which was going to be, very, very difficult. And she came and took it on. And so things may not be working out as folks wanted to work out, but from my vantage point, she has been working more with trying to get the community involved with working with the police department, more than what I have seen other police commissioners do. And that's why I support her, and that's why I believe that there got to be space for the police department and the community to be able to come together. Now, saying I support the police department is never, ever going to say I'm going to support anything of somebody shooting a 13-year-old, any killing. Any killing of a person that is not committing a crime or has no weapon, I think that they should be charged with murder anytime you kill somebody and they don't have a weapon or not committing a crime. Anybody that kills somebody that, is not committing a crime, don't have no weapon, or even if they have a weapon and the weapon is away or something. I mean, we got to figure. I mean, there got to be something that stops these police from killing innocent people. We got to come up with something for that.
So I would say, Tyrone, that policies and laws need to change in police departments on some level so that it doesn't tie the hands of the people who are in charge of said departments, right? So if the laws are clearer in terms of holding folks accountable for what they're doing, because like in every other profession, we have to be held accountable for what we do, right? So
that is correct.
I just think policies and the George Floyd Act has been passed by Congress and has been sitting in the Senate for a while, which has been really not only holding police officers accountable, but getting them getting the police officers themselves more mental health and support and more training, right? So it's not an all and it's everything mixed in together to try and create better laws for the citizens of this country who may not otherwise fare well under the hands of some police officers. It's a really rough situation to be in, and it's even tougher, Tyrone, when you are someone of black and brown hue and you have children of black and brown hue and you see what is possible. When we have been stopped by police, and it's only by God's grace that we're not shot, because I had one in Virginia that was just, I had to take him on. I took the ticket and came home and I was like, what we're not going to do. But, and you could just tell. He gave me a whole ticket because I was 1 mile over the speed limit. It's about he didn't have no discretion, and he could see that I was just passing somebody. So you see those kinds of things happening, but we literally have to have the presence of mind to stay alive and not give anybody who would otherwise want to shoot us with impunity. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but Mother, and my key factor is again the judicial system. This system that we call the court of law. The court of law is supposed to be there to keep or prevent or at least penalize those who do things outside of the law.
Right.
And that does not say that police officers are outside the law. So that's my thing. And the reason why I was saying that, and I brought that up, because, see, when you hear these folks call up and say, well, the reason why, you know, the police are shooting us and killing us is because we're not, you know, listening to no commands. We're not doing this and we're not doing that. And, you know, the hosts and other people be calling up and saying, we do be paying, you know, paying, and we still get killed.
Yeah.
So that's why I said the court system got to be more just, you know, more justice, you know, and equal justice, or you know, doing its job. The court system must do its job. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, my brother. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. Now, all I need is Maurice from Southwest, Maurice from North, and Woody, and Prince. Then my trifecta will be complete.
Hey, and Mother, Woody do not love you more than I do, and I don't care what he says.
Oh, those are fighting words now. You better not mess with Woody. I'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Okay.
God bless. Bye-bye. All right, bye-bye. Greg from East Falls, how are you?
Yeah. How you doing there?
I'm good, sir. What's going on?
I just called. I just tuned in. I don't know exactly what the subject matter is, but I did hear. I think that was Tyrone talking about the police and these shootings. I want to say this, and this disturbs me 1,000,000%. I don't think Larry Krasner has done everything right. He's done some things that I don't like. But I tell you what, if we don't come out and support him over this guy, Carlos Vega, he has a documented history that people are just learning about. 35 years. Krasner fired him because he had so many things that were, you know, that was misconduct. I promise you, and I hate to say this, if he gets elected, the FOP is supporting him. If he gets elected, stop and frisk will happen greater than it is now. And I hate to say this but I'm scared. I got sons, I got grandsons, and we're gonna have another George Floyd. What we're seeing, and I believe it. You ain't got to keep telling me. The way that they are killing us, like with reckless abandon. This is just not the FOP here. This is the FOP all over because they work together. And if we fought hard, and I didn't support Larry at first. I supported Tariq, but I had no problem with Larry because I know his record as well. And what people went through to get him elected as DA and to at least try to change some things, this guy, Carlos Vega, and I challenge anybody to tell me that I'm wrong. Let's do your research. He will be worse than Len Abraham. And that's saying a lot.
So I got to say this to you. I actually started my show talking about Carlos Vega because I've been getting a lot of stuff around him. And what I don't want to do is impugn his character without having a conversation with him first, right? So I'm opening the door for him to call into the radio station and say, this is what it is. Because we also know that media can be all over the place and different things can happen. But you're right. We have to do our research. We must do our research before we bust a move and do anything that we have to do because it's our lives that are on the line all the time.
One last comment, my sister.
Yes, sir.
The one thing that irks me, and I've been in this city all my life, those Reverend Dollar Bills, and they know who they are. I call them Reverend Dollar Bills.
Reverend Dollar Bills, okay.
Yes. And those politicians, black politicians, who we need for y'all to... I don't see any of them coming out for Larry Krasner, knowing what's been going on in this city, and it makes me sick. Thanks.
You're welcome, my brother. Take it easy. All right, bye-bye. All right, so now we're starting to talk about the election. Look at Black Jesus. All right, Joseph. I think it's Joe. Wait, let me just make sure it's Joseph. Just want to be sure. Joseph, yes, from Massachusetts. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good, Andrea. How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on? I haven't heard from you in a while. Where you been hiding?
That's okay. Don't be too friendly with me, because I'm not friendly with people. People talk nice to you, but they'll set you up. Not you, but, you know.
Oh, what's going on?
You know, I had to call about this mental illness stuff.
Yes.
I'm going to get straight to the point. I majored in psychology, and I run from that mental illness stuff. Because we live in a control society where people want to control people. The real mentally ill people that's violent, that's suicidal, they don't really help them. They let them go, but they want to exploit and humiliate those that don't really could survive on their own. So that lady in her car, was she not harmful to herself and to nobody else? She should be left alone. I don't know if you ever heard of the Salem witch trial here in Massachusetts back in 1600. So often, I did a lot of term paper in psychology class, but the one I really wanted to get to, but I never got to it because it's so controversial, is mental illness and religion. You see, too often, no disrespect to your pastor, but too often religious people want to say that they find mental illness. And a lot of times, because you're atheist like me, I don't believe in God. So therefore, it's easy for them to say, oh, you're mentally ill. And they don't have no expertise, and that's the danger. And that's why you have so much homelessness in America. 75,000 people homeless in New York City. In South Central LA, LA County, 60,000 homeless. Homeless is not so bad in Massachusetts, but it has to do with religion, and religious people need to understand that. We must have separation of church and state, and they have to be very careful about who they're labeling mentally ill, because they don't worship your God or your religion or your denomination. Don't mean you put them under the category for the mentally ill so the police could kill innocent black men, because that's what's happening. People who don't comply to the system we live in under now, prosecutors, especially black men. So I'm very sensitive when people who with the religious cloth talk about mental illness, and they go around pretending that they really do care, but they need to look in the mirror and ask themselves, do they really care about the mentally ill? Well, leave them alone. If they're not troubling nobody, they're functioning, they carry on in there. Why you want to exploit them? So you can force them on drugs, and when they can't see the psychiatrist, they go to the street drug. It's all a drug pushing. So these people in this society do not care about the mentally ill. I see many guys growing up that need help, but they won't help them because why? They're too out of it. They want to help those that they think can exploit and humiliate and use it as a status symbol that we helping people off the street. So for all them phony religious people out there, leave the mentally ill alone, because you don't know what's going on inside their mind. You don't know what they've been through, where they've been to, or what plan they have for the future. You just mess it up for them. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You're welcome, my brother. Take it easy. So listen. Let me be incredibly clear. In our communities, I have seen mental illness at work, in our families, in our communities. Label it what you want. Call it anxiety, depression. It pops up in ways that we just don't want to talk about, right? I agree with Joseph in terms of not everybody needs medication. Everybody does not need medication. And so, but the thing is to find a place where we can get a good diagnosis and be able to get the help that we can for our family members or those that are around us that may need mental health. We are solving mental health issues with alcoholism and using all sorts of prescription or illicit drugs. And so we have to find ways to support each other through these processes so that it's not as difficult for someone to come out and talk about it. I have been friends with folks who say, I know there's something going on in my family, but I'll be darned if I tell anybody so they can diagnose me, because I do not want to be caught up in anybody's system anywhere. And oftentimes people say they don't let folks that know that they're struggling, because then they, it would go into their file at work, and it's just a lot of stuff. So, you know, we're just going to have to give people a space so we can talk about some of these things. But I see my next guest on one, so I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll be back, honey. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Between family dinners, bedtime stories, and study sessions, Pico knows that life never stops moving. So if you need help paying your energy bills, there are financial programs available, like the Customer Assistance Program, or CAP, that offers a monthly credit that can lower your gas and electricity payments. Learn how Pico can help keep your life moving with CAP. See if you qualify at pico.com/CAP.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. A second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
The WURD Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting WURDradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. Exclusive articles and multimedia content and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio newsletter.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. It's that time of the month again when G. Lamar Stewart, Chief of the Community Engagement Unit at the District Attorney's Office, will be talking about the upcoming one-stop job and resource hub scheduled for May 6th at the West Philadelphia YMCA. We will be joined by Donald Drinks, co-founder of Gaining Respect Over Our Worst Nights Grown. I can't wait to talk to Donnell. And then we have Veronica Joyner, who is also with us as a third guest, and she's the founder and chief administrative officer of Mathematics, Civics, and Sciences Charter School in Philadelphia. And we'll be addressing the issue of trauma in schools. Well. Good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Auntie.
Man, I can't wait to have this conversation. Now, Mr. Donald and Miss Joyner, I know you don't know me. But this is going to be a really, really good conversation because we need to talk about this, right? We need to talk to... Have I spoken to you before, Miss Joyner?
No.
Oh, well, welcome to The Source, madam. It's a pleasure talking to you. All right, so listen. Yeah, all right, so listen, G. Lamar Stewart, talk to me a little bit about the One-Stop Job Hub and Resource Center that's coming up on May 6th, and then I'm going to get into our guests to highlight the violence in the city and what we're getting ready to do.
Certainly. So, as always, our One-Stop Job and Resource Hub will be taking place next Thursday, which is May the 6th, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pre-COVID, we would bring about 50 employers and transform schools and rec centers and other community institutions into job and resource hubs every first Thursday of the month. Because of the pandemic, we went completely virtual. But we're excited because next week we're going to be doing a hybrid model of the One-Stop Job and Resource Hub. Essentially, we will continue to run the virtual hub from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. However, we're going to be doing a watch party in one half of the gymnasium at the West Philadelphia YMCA so that community residents can actually physically come into the building and watch it virtually. But then we're going to have about 10 to 15 vendors socially distant, on location as well, and they're able to come in. This particular hub is an outreach to the community at large, to victims of gun violence, to those who have been impacted by the pandemic, as well as just dealing with extreme poverty. But also we're going to have some resources for those businesses who are still trying to recover from the pandemic, as well as from last year's civil unrest. And so we're excited. This, of course, has always been a prevention model where we brought in trauma care professionals and victim service professionals, as well as employers, into the one-stop hub every month to really connect with those who are addressing gun violence or dealing with gun violence and impacted by gun violence, as well as those impacted by poverty.
So thank you so much. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. Mr. Drinks, you formerly worked for the District Attorney's Office in the Community Engagement Unit, but you're now working for the Campaign for Fair Sentencing of Youth, and your title is Leadership Development and Engagement Coordinator. Talk to me about this fair sentencing and the amount of violence that we've been seeing in the city of Philadelphia, and what can we do about it?
First of all, thank you for having me. You're welcome. Unfortunately, that when we speak about that, we bundle them together, but they're not always directly correlated. Okay. So a lot of times when we're talking about fair sentencing of youth, we're talking about extreme sentence youth that committed crimes as children. And unfortunately, the way the system is structured, it treats them as adults. And now with science and technology, we're learning that the brain development is different. So they have to be looked at different. And as a civilized society, we owe them that. Right. So that's my job now, to help legislate and give second chances for those children sentenced to extreme sentences. And that's where we're at now.
When you say extreme sentences, when you say extreme sentences, what do you mean? Because we know from research that the brain is not fully developed until you're about 27, 28 years old.
Exactly.
Which makes me a little bit concerned about police officers that are 21 and 22, right? And so, so what does an extreme sentence look like for a young child?
Well, and see, that's a tricky slope, and I won't even dare venture into what's extreme, in the sense of, if you have mitigating circumstances and the child needs to be treated as a child, 5 years can be extreme if they're not getting the proper treatment. You know, we can't always be punitive in that sense. But usually when you talk about extreme sentences, we're talking about sentencing children to die by incarceration. You know, me personally, I was locked up with a life sentence, originally a death sentence. And that should have been.
Were you a young person when that
happened? I was a juvenile. Yes, I was.
Yes, so you were one of the ones that had your sentences commuted. Because
yes.
Yes.
Under the Miller.
Oh, gee, Lamar, I'm loving these guests, because Pennsylvania was I think was the only state that was using young people and giving them life or the death sentence.
Not the only state, but the largest. And the largest in the country, which was the largest in the world. And that's one of the things that everything comes full circle that I think we're discussed, because I was released under the progressive ideologies of Larry Krasner's office. Prior to him taking office, his predecessor were still maintaining a staunch stance on extreme sentencing. You know, regardless of what mitigating factors you had, they were still looking at extreme high double-digit sentences for men and women that had excesses of 20, 30 years in, and he was still saying that it wasn't enough. And then, fortunately, God willing, we had a change of administrations, and then it was done with an even hand. You know, and that's the thing that I don't think is discussed enough. When we talk about law, we don't talk about the even hand of it. It's not no favoritism. It's just fairness. And when we talk about second chance legislation, we're talking about legislation for those deserving. We leave that open-ended too often. You know, let's give everybody second chance, pro-eligibility for life. Yes, pro-eligibility for life is that deserving. You know, and that, so I digress back to your point as far as when we talk about the violence in the street, the people that we're advocating for aren't the ones that's doing it right now. You know, I don't think a civilized person don't think anybody that's out here acting crazy and doing these uncivilized acts doesn't deserve to go to jail and be punished for it.
Andrea, let me add this in here, and to connect this to One Stop. Donnell and I met over a year ago as I was out in the community doing much of the work around canvassing, trying to connect people to opportunities. And so Donnell is one of our success stories. Not only was he hired through One Stop, but a position was created for him, and he was our crime prevention and intervention specialist here at the DA's office. And through the work he was doing here to help us connect with those who needed opportunities, we were able to help him to go to the next level in a national position now. So he is a success story for us through our one-stop job and resource.
National position now? Well, look at Black Jesus. Okay. All right. So, because here's the thing. We often want to throw away our little black and brown children, right? That the punishment hardly ever fits the crime, right? And I'm speaking from experience because I sat on a school board for 8 years. I've seen how educators work with children of color versus their white counterparts. I saw last May, June, when George Floyd was shot and killed, the amount of white children that were in the streets saying something has got to give. We're tired of hearing our parents sit at the dinner table and say, if they only did. And they were like, well, we're in school and we're seeing the unfair treatment. So we've been in the cars with them when police officers have stopped us, and we see how they treat our black counterparts compared to us. So you're right. There is a difference in the way our children are made adults, you know, at 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. And so for the grace of just being in a situation, Mr. Drinks, where you could get a second chance at this, you must, and I may be overstepping myself, but you must spend the rest of your life helping young people. Do you hear me? And you understand what it feels like.
Exactly. And to be quite honest with you, that passion and that calling is the only reason that I left the position that was created for me at the DA's office. And it wasn't for no other factors other than I understood the passion and emotion and the desire that goes into that line of work, because I was once a child that somebody else advocated for. And you're so right. Our black and brown children are so disproportionately sentenced to extreme sentences that we need advocates. And so I live my life as an ambassador for the second chance opportunity. And that's what One Stop provided for me. And like while I sit here and it's unfolded before it's now, it looked scripted, but it really wasn't. You know, I had no attachment to the district attorney's office other than I just had a case before him. I get out. I had no connection to Lamar. At the time, I don't even think he was at the district attorney's office. We were just in the field working, and then he seen that that my passion was sincere, and he was just asking, well, where are you working at or whatever, and they got to talking, and he connected me to opportunities, and before you know it, I wound up in the DA's office. And the key to that is it was an opportunity to highlight my skills, and then it allowed me to build a resume that afforded me this opportunity.
I'm almost speechless in these words. Ms. Joyner,
Yes.
jump in here for me. You are the Chief Administrative Officer of Mathematics, Science, and Civics and Sciences Charter School. Talk to me about trauma in the school. What are you seeing?
Well, first of all, I grew up in the hood, North Philadelphia, very poor. So I became a part of the mission, you know, to save and give opportunities to others. I might add, I'm the founder of the school, 21 years in existence, and we hold the title after 9 years of being the highest graduation in terms of our students, 100%. We have the highest college acceptance and the highest college completion, meaning there are doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, engineers that have graduated from this school and gone on to college. So that's how we pull our group up. And that's how we do not become some of the victims we speak about, because I was very poor. So when I went to school, I studied very hard because I did not want to be poor. And thank God I'm not. But what we're finding here, that the father of crime is unemployment, and the mother of crime is a lack of education. So when we have these problems in our streets, we're having a combination of these things going on. And how do we stop it? well, we need to put more vocational schools together. We have now less vocational schools in the public school than we had when I attended the public schools. So why are we closing vocational schools when we need to be opening them so that students don't all go to college, but they need a skill? They can learn to become an auto mechanic, a plumber, an electrician. All of these things are needed today, and there's a shortage. So our young people end up in crime. When we have a situation where parents are working and there's a one-parent home, the mother cannot be the dad and be there if she has to work to pay the rent and put food on the table. So children are left alone a lot. And so they get into these, what we call during my time, gangs. They become the families, and they become the ones that serve as the role models and get us through as a family. And so the problem is education in the city of Philadelphia, because most of the people committing crime, if they're in Philadelphia, they went to Philadelphia schools. I mean, they're not being transported from other states or countries. And these are people that are homegrown. And how do we correct it? As I said, giving them something to do with their hands. We don't want guns in their hands, but we can certainly put books and ink pens and pencils and a skill that they can use to earn a living. Because if we don't have a means to food, shelter, and clothing, a legitimate means, we go to illegitimate means for these items.
Absolutely. I was talking to a guest yesterday who said this to me. We are all mentored on some level, right? Yes. It could be mentored from the wrong side or mentored from the right side. Mm-hmm. And so when we choose not to listen to Dr. Liz, she said, when we choose not to listen to our young people and ignore them when they're speaking to us, they will find the guidance and the mentorship from anywhere that they can.
Yes.
You know, you have been working with young children now for years, right?
Yes. 50 years.
Did you say 50?
Yeah,
50,
I spent
50.
Yeah, 50. I spent 10 years in the Philadelphia Public School. I've run this school for 21 years.
Yes.
I'm the oldest CAO of all charter schools in Philadelphia.
Right.
And I've spent time with Parents United, which I still have, that organization, tutoring and advocating for parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, you know, what signs do you see of a child being in trauma that you can support them? Because you've clearly done this now for 50 years.
Yes.
What are the signs that parents or community members should look out for so that they never get to a place where they're penalized unjustly and excessively in a system that, you know, has been making money off of them? Like the judge up there in upstate Pennsylvania that was given years in prison because he was sentencing children unfairly and getting a kickback every time a child went to prison. And we've tried to pretend like these things are not happening, but it happens far too often. So what are the signs of trauma that you're seeing in young people that we need to look out for?
Well, one is they need attention. You know, idle hands, you know, is definitely the devil's workshop. So they need mentors. They need schools that care, not just schools that warehouse. Mm-hmm. So when you put children in a school and you have staff that care, I have over 1,000 students in my school, starting at first grade, ending at 12th. I have a young man that came into this school. This is an example of what I get. He's seen his father shot and killed over drugs in front of him. His mother was on drugs, so the grandmother had to raise him and his 6 other brothers and sisters. And I brought him into my school and gave him a lot of love and support. He is now a teacher at this school. He got a basketball scholarship, 4 years, paid. He's now a teacher teaching an all-boys class that I have put together and serving as a role model. Now, that was a young man that was saved, and there are many of them. Many of them. They need attention and they need things to do.
So let me ask you this, because you're clearly doing it, right? You're doing
Yes.
it, Ms. Joyner, Mr. Drinks, you're doing it. G. Lamar, I've watched you doing this. Why? I almost cussed. Why are we not replicating this? Because we see that it works.
It's very sad, and sometimes it troubles me that in 21 years I have produced engineers, doctors, lawyers, teachers, accountants. In every profession, our children are represented. They graduated from the school. Right. But yet people tell me you are the best kept secret in the city because I'm actually doing the job. And I want to thank Mr. Stewart, because the DA's office has been very involved in this school and assisting me with young men. So Mr. Stewart has sent in speakers. He himself, we've had 3 students over the past 2 years that have been shot and killed. And he has sent in grief counselors at the last minute. Mr. Krasner himself has come into classes to speak to our young people that were grieving over the death of some of our students. We had 1 student shot getting off the SEPTA bus. We had 1 student shot in the back, ushering his cousins and brother into the home. And we just recently had a student shot and killed coming from work at Burger King. And 2 of our college graduates, basketball players, shot and killed.
Jesus. Okay, let me take a quick break. And then when we come back, we can talk about what, I mean, I know we have the one-stop job hub resource. I can never get it right. Let me tell you, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get it right so I'm not messing up your stuff. One-Stop Job and Resource Hub, which is scheduled for May 6th. G. Lamar Stewart, I know that you have been at this for a long time, even when you were a police officer in the Philadelphia Police Department, and that you have always had a heart for this work and for young people. When we come back, I want us to address how do we get the adults to give a diggity dang beyond what's happening in front of their nostrils, because it's not my child and that, you know, these are just bad children. I need us to figure out how can we get adults to give, to really, Zen Motley just wrote, the main question is what do young people really want to do? I got young people at the tender age, people in my family. I grew up in a really bad time in Philadelphia. It's a person's responsibility to want to do right, but a person also needs to have mentors. Right? You can want to do right all you want, but if you don't have the right kinds of people around you to support you and push you through, you know, we expect so much of ourselves that other people wouldn't expect of each other, right? And so I want us to think about how can we do mentorship. And Diane says, thank you for your special attention and expertise with our young ones. We all need to follow your model of mentoring the young minds of tomorrow. Speaking to you, Ms. Joyner. Hold on one second. Let me take a quick break. We'll be right back. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Looking for an exciting and well-paying new career opportunity? MCAP is a free manufacturing career accelerator program. In just 7 weeks, learn new career skills, earn industry certifications, and connect to manufacturing companies who are hiring. To see if MCAP is right for you, call 215-770-7101. That's 215-770-7101. MCAP is brought to you by Drexel University's Goodwin College of Professional Studies in partnership with EDSI Incorporated. MCAP is an equal opportunity program. Diverse candidates, including women and people of color, are strongly encouraged to apply.
We are moms, grandmoms, aunts, and sisters who care about our children and our city. We also know the pain, grief, and trauma of having to bury a loved one to violence. I am Dr. Dorothy Johnson Spite, sending a mother's plea to the city of Philadelphia. Please encourage all our children and loved ones to refrain from any form of violence in the days to come. Speak to your sons, daughters, and loved ones. Don't do violence. Let's do peace in our communities across this city. Brought to you by Mothers in Charge, 215-228-1718.
From safe to seamless, convenient to contactless, and local to express, SEPTA is the Philly way to go. Plan your trip at iseptaphilly.com.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. We are people of resilience. No matter what happens, we fight through the pain. We protect our traditions. We uphold our excellence. So let's protect our lives. With vaccines, we can trust. We can do this.
To learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have G. Lamar Stewart, Donald Drinks and Veronica Joyner, Profiles in Justice Community Engagement Chief. They are on to talk about the one-stop job and resource hub scheduled for May 6th at the West Philadelphia YMCA. But Donald Drinks is also on to talk about, the unfair sentencing of young people who just don't deserve to go through all of what they're being given. And Ms. Joyner is on here to talk about the issue of trauma in schools. She talked about how many children were shot and killed, made it out, came back, shot and killed, not made it out, shot and killed, you know, and that they need to get support on certain levels. Now, I hear that we have Woody on the line who says he has a question for you guys. Woody, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm appreciating this program, and I'm telling you, this is wonderful. I've heard a lot about Ms. Joyner. Ms. Joyner, my door is open to you here at the barbershop. You said you've been doing it for about 50 years, so me and you've been doing it about the same amount of time. I would love to open the doors of the barbershop. I do it all the time with a lot of these young men coming in, and a lot of times it's a moment in their lives that they don't prepare for. We study death so much that life is pushed aside. Now, the natives that lived here before America, I refuse to call them Native Americans, but the natives that lived here before America, they would constantly show and teach their young about living things and how important life actually is. So each day that you awaken, you would awaken with the thought of, what am I going to prepare myself for today? What is nature going to show me today? Who is that person that I call myself? So you interweave yourself into the things that are around you that are natural, and then natural things come out. Everybody's made for a reason and a purpose, but if we don't prepare ourselves for the moment in time that comes, you know, one split second can change your life in a thought.
Yes.
You know, I just want to share this really quickly. It's something I wrote called The Preparation for a Special Moment in Time. It says the preparation for a special moment in time is to be free of all poisons of the mind, body, and spirit. Preparing to touch this moment inside of ourselves, we then can travel on that never-ending journey of eternity outside of ourselves. This is a true way of cleansing ourselves to get the gift of God's freedom. This is the moment that turns on the peace, the key of your life to love, peace, and tranquility. This formula becomes the roadmap to our destiny, and it will keep us on the right path to that one point that is God. God is all around us every moment, and that door hasn't been open for a lot of these children. God is love, and if we understand what love can do for someone, I think we can kind of turn the tide a little bit. So my door is open for you, dear.
Okay, Ms. Joyner, thank you, Woody.
Yes.
And I would like to give him my number, or if he can get it from you or Mr. Lamar.
All right, I'll send it. I'll give it to Michael, and he'll give it to Woody.
Thank you.
All right, I will definitely do that. Michael, Woody. Go ahead.
Andre, I wanted to share this because just before the break, you know, you were talking about the importance of mentoring, and you know, there are a lot of organizations across the city that we partner with, the Community Engagement Unit, the DA's office, that's doing some great work on the ground, particularly mentoring young men and young women. Organizations like Grown, you've met Donnell Drinks, and he has his co-founder, Ike Jones. They're doing amazing work. No Mo Foundation with Ricky Duncan, Young Chances Foundation in South Philly, Tyreek Glasgow, Yeah Philly, which was founded by a young lady named Kendra Vanderwater out in West Philly. Man Up Association, not the one by Solomon, but there's one out of SCI Phoenix that's run by a guy named Benny Dew and Roddy Hammock. And then there's Men of Courage out of Nicetown, run by a guy named Taj Murdoch. There are organizations that are out there doing amazing work, but they need to be amplified.
Let me ask you this. Can you pull them towards me, please, so I can amplify them and have the conversation? Because I really want, and seriously, Mr. Drinks and Madam Joyner, we need to have this conversation more often, right? Because we're wringing our hands and we're not really talking about what is most important to help our children. And so that's why I can fully appreciate G. Lamar Stewart. Let me tell you, you know, and mentoring comes in many shapes and form. I have said this 1,000 times. We see young people hungry. We tell them come for a meal to pick up a meal at the school. And oftentimes sometimes all they want is just a hug and a smile and someone to say to them, you know, I made such and such at my house today, maybe a familiar something that they love that they're missing from their mothers or their aunties' pots, and you can say, here, I brought this for you for school today, you know, just making them feel like they're a part of something other than looking at them as if they're animals and criminals to not be trusted. And children can sense that. You don't even have to say it to them. They can absolutely sense when we just don't give a diggity dang about them, right?
Exactly.
And what we see with especially our brothers, Lord have mercy. I love you all to death. I do. I love you all with every fiber of everything that is in me, and I consistently have this conversation around what can we do to support you? What can we do to support you? Donald, tell the folks, what could have helped you when you were younger? Had an adult paid attention?
Well, I've been asked this question a lot of times, and I can go on in different things because there's different periods of my life that could have turned me different ways. But one of the things that I make a point to do at Grown, which is an acronym for Gaining Respect Over Our Worst Nights, is to highlight the humanity in everyone. The key word is we get out of habit. We use this word mentoring, and we run a mentoring organization, but it's used as a buzzword now. You know, instead of just saying, I love you. You know, I'm going to be an example of love for you. I'm going to be an example of success for you. You know, we get caught up because we talk about intrinsic value systems. They are developed from our environments, and then we take it as our own. So a lot of times we have to create an environment where a child can develop his own. So to answer your question in short, for me, I should have taken more advantage of the examples in front of me of the love that was around. But it wasn't highlighted to me in my eyes. You know, in hindsight, it was there. You know, I didn't highlight it because I was caught in a society where materialistic things or false senses of power were more intriguing and more alluring. You know, but the reality of it is, so moving forward at Grown, what we make a point to do, while we have a curriculum of a cognitive-based curriculum to change your thinking, we never get away from it just being the humanity and being loving them, letting them know they love, feeding them. You know, I shared this story, and me and Don Ike Jones, we've had a speaking engagement, and one of the young kids was a little rambunctious, and he kept like being real argumentative. And he said, and at first I just thought he was rebellion until I was hearing him out. He wanted to be heard. And he said he wanted to be rich. And I was like, rich? So then I said, okay, I got it. You know, you rich, you want to talk about money, value, but not knowing the worth. I had my whole spill for me. So I asked him, well, how rich do you want to be? He said he want to be rich enough to eat every night.
I can relate.
He want to be rich enough to eat every night. That floored me, because what that told me was he just wanted to live. He wanted to live. So a lot of times they go down paths of survival and not even get a chance to get to success.
Absolutely.
And if we nurture an environment where our kids can be successful, then they don't have to focus on survival.
Yes, yes. And I know too often everything you're saying, the love, the hugs, I do that here. The most angry kid eventually will hug me back after I keep doing it. But I let them know I'm going to love you even if you don't want me back. And I have made them successful. The young man I spoke about, that his father died, he was angry with everyone. He left out of this building and he had a fight with one of my students who was now the sheriff. I told him he can arrest you now. But I don't let my kids, I hug them all the time. I feed them. So what you're saying is absolutely correct, because I had nights when I did not eat, when I did not have proper clothing and shoes. And I believe God let me do that so that I could understand my students. I have over 1,000 kids here, and I have a washer and dryer. I comb hair. I put clean clothes on my kids. I put shoes. I put coats on them. And during this pandemic, we have been delivering and giving parents food and helping them with bills and helping them any way we can. But I want to let Lamar know we appreciate all the sessions that you guys have given to our school for our students to grow academically and socially, because we teach them about the community. So I named the school the Mathematics, Civics, and Sciences, and I bridge community service with math and science. And we do a homeless program. We feed the homeless. We give to all the different community groups to help them help other people. So thank you for the sessions that the district attorney's office has sponsored in schools. I would like to see that grow because our children have benefited so much from it.
Happy to know you.
Andrea, if I can share this, and I know time has gotten away. One of the students that Ms. Joyner referred to, a young lady who it's been almost 2 years now that she was getting off of the SEPTA bus at 22nd and Sedgley. And I responded to that scene, as always, to make sure that the victim services information gets connected to families. Our CARES program always responds to every homicide as well. And I learned that this young lady was a student at Mathematics, Civics, and Sciences. I didn't learn that until I got home that evening. And my son, who was also a student at Mathematics, my oldest son, said, "Dad, you went to the scene of a young lady who I sat next to in school each and every day." I immediately contacted Ms. Joyner, and we deployed trauma care professionals to the school by that next morning. The work that she's doing there, I mean, it's real. And the services that we have through our One Stop program, we're able to connect that not just to those at the hubs, but also to those who are those students who are in those schools, both mathematics as well as 13 other schools that we partner with citywide every third week of the month.
Okay. So listen, we have a minute left. I'm going to push it, Michael, and go to 2:56 because I want people to give me how they can be reached because, Ms. Joyner, folks are asking how can their children come to your school. And so let's start with you, G. Lamar Stewart. How can people reach you for the one-stop shop? You know what?
Yes, here it is.
The One-Stop Job and Resource Hub. I feel like a tongue twister over here.
Yes, certainly. One-Stop Job and Resource Hub next Thursday, May 6th. The watch party and providers will be at 5120 Chestnut Street. Or if they go on WURD, I'm trusting that my auntie, Andrea Lawful Sanders, is going to post a flyer. The Zoom information will be on that flyer as well if you can't make it. And there's a call-in number for the One Stop. If you want to just listen in, that call-in number is 301-715-8592. You can call in from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. next Thursday, May 6th, to listen in, or you can show up to the YMCA at 5120.
Give me that call-in number again, please.
301-715-8592.
8592. All right, G. Lamar Stewart. Mr. Donald Drinks, how can they reach you?
Yes, I can be reached. Our website is www.wearegrown.org. We can be reached at 267-694-1003. 267-694-1003. And like I said, we and there our website will link up to whatever information or activities and everything that's going on.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to have you all back on. And Ms. Joyner, tell us how we can reach you.
Certainly. The Mathematics, Civics, and Sciences Charter School of Philadelphia, 215-923-4880. That's 215-923-4880.
And Andrea, I realized I didn't give my actual number. I gave the number for the hub, but my number is 267-266-6096, or I can be reached at glamar.stewart@phila.gov. It's glamar.stewart@phila.gov.
Hey, G. Lamar, once again, the great supervisor. My email address is Donnell Drinks, properly spelled, @gmail.com. I always follow his lead.
Well, I'm going to follow the lead too. So my email number is info@mcscs.org. That's info@mcscs.org.
This was just wonderful Thank you all so much. I asked my producer to reach out to you, Ms. Joyner. G. Lamar Stewart, I need you to bring all these communities resources to me. Bring Mr. Drinks back and everybody so we can continue to have this conversation, okay? Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye. You're welcome. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Hey folks, WURD members are invited to tune in every second Tuesday of the month with me, Nick, for a chance to win a book bundle of the newest releases from Kensington Publishing's culturally oriented Dafina imprint.
Spring forward to throwback. All this month, when you start or renew your ForWord membership, you'll get exclusive Word throwback swag, vintage backpacks, books, and tees. While supplies last. Offer ends April 30th. Sow seeds into Black Talk Media and grow with us. Visit wordradio.com/join now to start or renew today.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If it seems like I am consistently focusing on young people and education and their well-being, it's because I just am. I think I was 9 when I realized that the well-being of young people and the elderly were the two most important elements in my life, and I have walked that path ever since unapologetically. And so to have these kinds of resources on this show every single week on some level to talk to people about what is possible is what we're going to keep doing until somebody pulls my plug. I'm telling you, I will not stop, and then I will find another avenue to do this. Believe me when I tell you, with my dying breath, I'm going to be thinking about young children and young people and how we can work with them to become viable adults in society. And that's not just black children, but children everywhere, right? So before we go to the bringing everybody together group, which also has the children, and I just can't wait to talk to them. I only see one, which is Brandon. Brandon, figure out where the rest of them are, please. Let me get Jacob from Albany. Jacob, are you there?
Yeah, peace be unto you, Sister Andrea. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm blessed. I heard that interview. That was my sister, Veronica Joyner.
Yes.
So I was listening in, and she loves children like you do. I'm telling you. Y'all love some children, and that's why y'all get the job done. Because I heard you mention that children can feel when you love them, and when you know, and when you're just shucking and jiving, you know. And she, I'm telling you, the love that she has one son, but the children that she has, the ones that she's raised, right, from this school in the 21 years that that we've been here, because I've been here for that long. I had a son who started first grade here. He's a lawyer in Atlanta, Georgia now. Graduated Howard University, summa cum laude. He went to Emory Law School in Atlanta, graduated. Now he's a practicing lawyer in Atlanta, Georgia. So, again, like you said, once you lay the foundation, we can do anything we need to do because, you know, it's nothing that we can't do. And to bring out of our children what's in them, that's what we got to learn to do. And when you love children, that's the beginning right there, because you start bringing out the love that's in them that somebody else can't bring out. So y'all keep on doing what y'all do, as Reverend Joe said, and man, y'all like beacons of light in a dark world. So I thank you, I thank her, and that's what we need.
But
Yeah,
that
we
was
don't have a
interview.
choice, Jacob. We just don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. Other people may choose to only think about their own children, but for me, all the children that are around me, if we don't take care of our young people, the village is going to burn the hell to the ground, and we just can't keep losing them like this because we're so stiff-necked and we don't want to listen and we don't want to hear them, like fully hear them, not to respond with our own unique set of wisdom, but for them to just feel heard and appreciated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
and
here,
y'all,
man.
Y'all,
We're
y'all
here.
have to. You got the knack to do that, and you have the skill. You know what I mean? It's something that certain people have. That's a gift. And when you find out what your gift is, and you can use it like y'all use it, well, you're being heavenly used. And as Reverend Joe said again, y'all just keep on doing what you do.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
this,
Jacob. Have a good one. All right, bye-bye. All right, Prince, how are you? And then I got to take my next set of guests because I can see some of them are here. What's up, Prince?
Hey, how are you? That was a great interview. You know,
Prince.
I met Miss Veronica Joyner because my niece, who is a practicing teacher for 30-some years in the school district now, she had gone to Mrs. Veronica Joyner's Parents United for Better Schools program. And there was a stabbing in Martin Luther King and a stabbing in Germantown School within a week's time. And she put the call out to folks, and she called myself and some other guys, and we organized the parents of the students inside of both schools in which to curtail and stop the violence. And so it was done in a way where the kids will actually see their parents in the hallway and get to class and not hang around around outside. And so we organized the parents' vacation time, whatever time they had off. Vacation time, and the parents were amenable to it. I mean, they supported Miss Veronica Joyner and that initiative. And so she is good people. So when she started her school, we knew that it was going to be successful because of how she felt about the city, how she felt about low-income, poor, and impoverished students, that they can compete at the same level if given the opportunity.
Yes.
And all we asking for in the city is for more folks to just take that kind of initiative, give us the benefit of the doubt. And my last point that I like to make is that maybe you can get Councilman Curtis Jones on your program.
Kyle Mutual, there you go.
Yeah, because every developer in East Falls, Roxborough, and Manioc area just about got everything that approved that they wanted through the city council, regardless if the constituents and residents did not want to participate in that process. Remember, we were not allowed to go to zoning areas. We were not allowed to refute or dispute a developer being in a community. We were not allowed to renegotiate what he should give back to the community. So you have all of these apartment buildings being built, and the residents, constituents didn't have not an iota of opportunity to at least say yay or nay. And so my last point, on Scotts Lane, the residents are asking for speed bumps, the same speed bumps they put on the block Rendell live on. And the city council person has gone against the residents' will to want speed bumps on a street that they realize that people are going too fast up and down. And so if he's not going to stop the problem of them going too fast by placing a cop at the corner or something like that, then he needs to be amenable to the residents and what they want. And so, and at this point, we're just getting city council people that are giving blank checks to developers or blank passes to developers without our input or without us at least being able to come to the floor. Because the whole call-in on city council time, that's bogus. First, it's done wrong. It's inappropriate because you got 1 million people that go out to vote. If everybody voted, well, you got 1 million registered. So you can't take those phone calls. And they're only people that are not back at work, not even part-time, not even maybe 2 hours, not even for a session, are city council. And so I just hope we could fix that process because, Andrea, it makes no sense for us to pay taxes and not have a real viable part of being part of this system. That's my soapbox. I'm going to hang up and listen to you.
Thank you, my brother. Lord, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. All right, so let me bring in bringing everybody together, the BET Youth Group, which is on the last Tuesday of every month. I'm looking forward to talking to them. They have chosen their topic, the Derek Chauvin verdict and the recent police-involved shootings. We have Brandon, Ayana, Kyle, Shyla, Nadir, and let me see. Are we all here? Come on, open up your cameras. Let me see you. Mr. Washington? There we go. Good afternoon. Who am I missing? Hi, Brandon.
Good afternoon.
We're missing Ayana. She's having some trouble getting back in.
So she's having some trouble? All right, so look for, I think Michael is letting her in. I just saw that. So let's see if we can get Ayana back in here. So good afternoon to all of you. So much has happened since we last spoke, right? Right? Uh-huh. All right, so Mr. Washington, as always, I'm going to let you start and take it away. What do you want to talk about? There's Ayana. What do you want to talk about this month?
Well, we had our youth council meeting last week, and when they were talking, of course, the verdict had maybe come through a couple of days prior to, and so we had a conversation about it. They gave their thoughts and their feelings, and it also led to conversations about the recent police shootings, namely Nante Wright and with the young lady Micaiah. And so there was a lot on their hearts. And, originally when we talked about the Derek Chauvin case, one of the students said, we could talk about that for an hour? I said, well, believe it or not, it's, Miss Sanders' mama, as they call you, she's really good with asking questions. When you ask the right question, you're going to get a conversation. And generally, when we talk about violence and police brutality or anything you're passionate about, it's always going to lead to something else. So, yes, we could talk for 15 minutes, but we could talk for 15 days about some of these things.
We could talk for 15 years.
Hey, tell me about it. We've already been talking about it for 15 years and then some.
Yep. So let me share this with all of you. I think I've said this before. I am the mother of two young African-American males. They're now 25 and 29. They have been blessed. I mean, I was that mama that stayed on each side of their heads, and so I love them dearly. I hug them all the time. We had family meetings, but I had very high expectations of them. Both of them have graduated from college, and both of them left Pennsylvania, right? So they're living in different states. And when the Derek Chauvin trial was going on, one of them, the oldest one, called me and he said, Mom, I don't understand. You told us that we had to go to school. You told us to stay out of trouble. We have not been arrested. We have, we've had police officers target us. You've told us not to get bitter, but to get better. You've told us all the things to do. So he says now who's going to help us to stay alive? Who's going to help us to stay alive that when we're doing all the right things, the wrong thing can still happen to us? You know what I'm saying? And so as a mother of young black males, I don't sleep well. I don't. I just want you all to know we don't sleep well, right? Because we're trying to figure out how can we support you. So when did the verdict come out? Wednesday or Thursday? I can't remember now.
Believe it was Wednesday.
Wednesday. So Wednesday, right? No, it was either Tuesday or Thursday, because right after I'd gotten off the air, I had to run into town to record something for 6ABC. It hasn't been out yet, so nobody will see that. But 6ABC called me. I went to go record some stuff with them, and they said to me, "What do you do when? What is the statement that you have around your life mattering?" And I said, "I tell my children all the time, don't get bitter, get better. But in order for them to not be bitter, they have to be surrounded by family members who are always loving on them. There has to be a safe space for them, for people to come to." So I have a lot of questions for all of you. One of them is, where the heck is your safe space? Do you feel like you have a safe space when you're out here, when you see, and some of you may have police officers in your family. I do. I have police officers in my family. I have police officers that I mentor, right, that will pick up the phone and call me and say, I am doing the best that I can. I see stuff happening around me, and I am being traumatized, and I still have to wear this gun and this badge, right? So the first question I have for all of you is, where is your safe space? When you see all this stuff going on around you in America, and you see black children being, their lives and black people, black people's lives being taken, and every day there's another murder. Where's your safe space? Start, Ayana. Where's your safe space? Unmute yourself, honey. Didn't think I would ask that question, huh? Didn't know you could talk about this for an hour. who do you turn to when you feel sad and angry and you can't take watching another one of these things? Where is your safe space?
Well, most times when stuff like this happens or I feel the need to talk to someone about it, I'll talk to my dad or my best friend.
Your best friend. Okay. All right. And when you talk to them, how are you left feeling? Do you feel like something has been solved, or you just feel like you got something off your chest?
I don't really feel like anything has been solved because the problem is still there, but I do feel like there was something lifted off my chest where I have someone to talk to about the situation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ayana. You know why I asked that question, Mr. Washington? Because oftentimes when parents are wailing and moaning about what they see on the news, they forget to have the conversations with their children who is hearing this stuff and don't know what to do with it, right?
That's right.
And so I want adults to hear me as I am talking to these young people about their safe spaces. I need you to create safe spaces for your children and the children that are around your children. All right, Kyle, where is your safe space?
My safe space is just at home. Like
at home.
Having the conversations, like you said, with my family. We have those almost every day.
Almost every day. Great. Great. Thank you for sharing that with me. Brandon, where's your safe space? Mr. CEO, 13 years old. I can't stand it.
Me personally, probably a lot similar to Kyle. It's probably my room. You know, or I confide in my family or Mr. Richard, and yeah, that's kind of where my safe space is, at home.
And do you have friends who don't have safe spaces?
Well, I would like to think not. I would hope that they all do, but I could see if there were some. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let me jump into the trial. What were your thoughts around this trial? Who wants to start? Come on, don't make me point my finger at you. You see my eyeballs. Come on, Kyle. Go ahead, honey.
I can start. My thoughts around it, I was just wondering if justice would be served in any way. That's all that was running through my mind.
And when you saw the verdict?
I was happy, but also I could relate to what a lot of people were saying. This was just a step in the right direction, but it felt better.
It felt better. It felt better. What are your thoughts, Ayana?
When I first heard about the trial, I was just wondering like why it took a whole year to do this trial when we obviously saw what happened on video countless times. And then when the verdict came out, like Kyle said, I was like, this is just the first step because there's still like many African American people that didn't get justice at all. Like Breonna Taylor, for example, and a lot of them have no justice whatsoever, and they probably won't. So this is just a mere step. But I'm happy that Derek Chauvin did get arrested, and
Because there are laws and briefs and arguments that the lawyers are bringing before the judge, and then they have to set a trial, and then so that's why it took a year, right? Derek Chauvin, when this all broke loose, Memorial Day of last year, went and turned himself and said he would take third-degree murder, and it was Barr, who was the head DA in the country, said, "Nah, we're not doing that." No, sir, we're not going to burn down this country because you're just trying to take third-degree murder. And so he's been found guilty of all three: second degree, third degree, and manslaughter. So the law doesn't always operate at the speed that we think it should. But the next question I'm going to ask you is, what did you learn from this? But let me ask Brandon, what did you think about the trial and your thoughts about the verdict?
And what I thought about the trial, in the beginning of watching the trial, because of course I kept up with it, and I consistently was turning the channel, keeping up with it on the news, and I found that the beginning half of the trial wasn't even a trial really for Derek Chauvin. It more or less was a trial for George Floyd, and just trying to convince the jury that he deserved his own death, that he brought it upon himself. And it was like the entire previous year that we spent protesting and fighting, blood, sweat, and tears, even though it was some foolish people that was looting and stuff, it still brought a message it was like, just if there were still people that had the ideal of that even being a possibility, it was just kind of throwing that entire gear out of the window. And then when it finally came back that he was proven guilty and on all 3 charges, and you know, I felt relieved. I felt satisfied because, and I also felt a shoulder lifted off. A weight lifted off my shoulders, because I think that a lot of cops that do have problems, and you know, for whatever reason, do have issues when it comes to dealing with minority situations or responding to crimes. You know, I think that did give them a message and showed them, you know, you can't get away with everything. You know, and that was really what I really found satisfying and what I really felt a victory in.
Yeah. Mr. Washington, let me pull you in for a couple of minutes before I take a quick break. Your thoughts, sir? Because, I mean, you know.
Well, similar to our young people, and again, because we have that conversation, I know, you know, and I'm glad that Brandon mentioned, you know, in terms of even a safe space, you know, we talk about pretty much everything because we know that their voices need to be heard and to get some understanding. And I think talking to them actually helped me to navigate even through my own thoughts, because when we talk to people, when we communicate, you know, we can unselfishly, you know, learn a little bit too, because we all have our thoughts. All right. And even if I take our young people on here today, prior to the conversation, there were different thoughts. But, you know, hearing different sides, even when we talk about some of the other issues a little bit later, it really helped to open the eyes. I'm going to take the standpoint going through the trial. In my mind, it's always interesting how you can have professionals who are totally speaking the opposite. So if I go with the doctors, for example, you know, and I'm going to keep it really simple in case we have younger people who are even listening. If one doctor says you have a cold, another doctor says you have the flu. Both of you are degreed, but we're getting mixed messages. So when we listen to the trial, one doctor says, oh no, he died because of carbon dioxide because he was behind a car. Another doctor says, oh, ain't no way in the world that happened. One doctor says this, another doctor says that. So in my mind, trying to think, you know, even as we educate our young people, let's educate on how to, you know, have justice. But that's also the importance of school and why we need to learn, because if we don't take the time to learn what these things really mean, we will go with what anybody tells us. You know, and that's also why when we go to doctors or when we get second opinions, because not only was it a battle between, you know, the attorneys, but now we're talking about battles between professional doctors. We're talking about, you know, you have one witness saying one thing, one witness saying the other. Then you have to figure out how much economics play into it. Am I doing this for the money, or do I want to do it because, you know, I want justice? One of the reasons why it would be hard for me to be an attorney, we had on our Saturday show, we had an attorney on there who said, no, I'm not a defense attorney. Look, I'm in the other kind of law because I would have a hard time defending someone that I know is wrong. So those are some of the things that played out in my mind. But just like our young people, when the verdict came through, I was elated. I was excited. But I also knew that, again, it's just another step, because it's not the first time, nor will it be the last time. And then the question that I asked our young people, and, you know, they may want to share it with you today, and I would even be curious to, you know, hear your thoughts, Mama, is, okay, the verdict was set. How about the sentence? Will it be 1 year? Will it be probation? Will it be the max 30 years? What do you think he deserves? Some might say, hey, well, I just think some time needs to be spent so that he knows we're serious. Some people say, hey, well, maybe none at all. Some people say the max. Well, what do you think? How much time should he serve, and why?
And we're going to hear that in another 7 weeks. Let me take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. I need you all to answer that question for me. Then we want to talk about the continued trauma that you see of young people being shot. We're going to talk about Micaiah, right? Who was being jumped, and she called for support and ended up getting shot and killed. Like a, you know. So let's think about that, and then we'll be right back. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is a number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. We are people of resilience. No matter what happens, we fight through the pain. We protect our traditions. We uphold our excellence. So let's protect our lives with vaccines we can trust. We can do this.
To learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Are you looking for a job? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal featuring jobs from some of Philadelphia's leading companies and arts organizations. If you go to the portal right now, you will see jobs from WURD Radio, the Kimmel Center, Her Foods, Always Best Care, WURD Radio, and more. Apply for a job today. Go to your livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs. So, man, if you are just joining us, I have on the line with me, bringing everybody together, the young group that has been meeting every Saturday with their own little show on Facebook to talk about life events. And today we have Brandon, Kyle, and Ayana, and Mr. Washington to talk about the Derek Chauvin trial and the trauma that has been impacting young people everywhere as a direct result. So talk to me about Micaiah. When you saw that, because you know we're getting to the place where we're so desensitized that we're showing now children getting shot by police officers. It's a lot. What were your thoughts when you saw that happening? Let me start with you, Brandon.
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Micaiah, the young lady who was they were fighting her and beating on her, and she called the police for help, and she ended up getting shot because she had the knife in her hand, defending herself from what I am told. Again, I have to speak on what I am told. I don't know the whole details of the case, but what were your thoughts around that?
I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw it, I mean, I was hot. I was mad. Mm-hmm. But that's why it's always good to have, like Mr. said, a second opinion to like talk to you. Because after, it was explained and I began to have an open mind to the entire situation. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand that the police officer, even though that situation could have been completely avoided, it didn't have to get to that point. It could have been stopped before then, but, you had to take into consideration, police officer's job, even though, you had to separate your ideals from, police officers killing black people. You had to, take your mind off of that and think about this specific situation itself and take into consideration everything that's going on, and, a police officer's job is to protect not only themselves, but not only the person that called and responded, but everybody that's included in the situation. And so if the police officer was to tase the girl, which at first I was hyped for, because I was like, why didn't they tase her? Mm-hmm. They could have stopped her. Mm-hmm. And, even they say, the tasers don't always stop them immediately, mm-hmm. because you gotta think, you got time before it hits them, mm-hmm. and then the shot, the charge goes off, and then, the paralysis, mm-hmm. The pain. But you still have a good 3 seconds before then. By that time, that other girl could have already been stabbed. Mm-hmm. And, and I'm not saying at all that this was supposed to happen, this is a good thing that happened, or that this is any way just for it all. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that police officer cannot be hold, completely at fault, and you just had to have an open mind about that.
You know what you just gave a great example of? Emotional intelligence. You know what emotional intelligence is, Brandon?
What?
Someone who is able to look at a situation and really see all sides of it, despite what it looks like to the naked eye. Right? You were open and honest about the fact that you were mad about it, and then you started looking at the details of it, and you said, well, okay, if I was a police officer, how would I have responded to that? What I think people are really aggravated about is that they've seen other children or other young people get into big fights, and they've found ways to calm them down versus killing them. You know what I'm saying? So it just, I think because it's so, the wound is so raw for people seeing black and brown children killed, randomly this way. Like the young man, the 20-year-old young man who was shot with a gun. The police officer is now charged with the crime, instead of, she said she thought she pulled out her taser, and she ended up pulling out her Glock, and you know what I mean? Like, it's those kinds of things. So we try to figure out what's at play here, beyond just human mistakes.
Now,
Ayana and
Trina,
go ahead.
Mr. J, now about the Dante White situation, that's a different story for me. I feel as though that was an irresponsible mistake. Even though the account that department said that she was a senior officer, and even though even in the conversation that we had as a group before coming onto the show, I still can't see it as any different but just pure irresponsibility. Yes, he tried to pull off, he did. And especially as a black community, we're taught and raised, when a police officer pulls you over, you don't make no sudden movements. You don't do nothing to give them a reason to harm you. You don't do that. You cooperate. You be respectful. You do everything you got to do to survive. And as hard as that is to say, and how sad it is that it has to be that way, it's true. But in that situation, to accidentally tase somebody, to mistake a taser for a gun, that it doesn't sit well for me. Now, I'm not saying that it was not an accident. That's not what I'm saying. It could have been an accident, but it's just irresponsible. I do think that her badge should be revoked. I do think that she should be let go from the force. I'm not saying that necessarily she should be charged, but I do think that there is some accountability that needs to be, given.
How old are you? I have to ask him this every month you come on that. You're 13, right?
Yes.
Lord have mercy.
Next time you see him, he'll be 14.
I know. Oh my gosh, this is insane. Kyla and Ayana, what are your thoughts around those two shootings? Go ahead, Ayana.
So the question was about the Micaiah, right? First.
Yes.
So for that, I feel as though that was, like Brandon said, you got to look at all sides of the situation, of all sides of the story. But when you look at the video, the cop barely said anything before shooting Micaiah. Like, he barely gave any warning. He barely said stop. I think in the video he said stop like one time before shooting her. And with that, like, I know that some cops might not be able to de-escalate the situation and that you have to protect all the people involved. But he barely gave Micaiah the chance to drop the knife and really gave everyone else the chance to realize that a cop was in the situation. The cop was actually there. And from what I heard, there was like a grown woman jumping Micaiah, and she felt like the knife was the only way to protect herself. So in that type of situation, as a child, if it were me and a grown woman are trying to jump me and I'm by myself, okay, yes, I had to protect myself. But he didn't even say anything before pulling out his gun and shooting her. And I feel like that was just racism. Like, that was just, I don't think it was a mistake. I think that he did that. And that was his decision to shoot her. And because she called him when she needed help. And he decided that it was okay to shoot her when she needed help. And she wanted to protect herself. So I was mad at that. That's my opinion on the Micaiah situation. But with what was the 20-year-old's name? Dante. With Dante, I honestly don't think that was a mistake either. There's a difference in weight between a gun and a taser, and from what I've heard, a taser different color, a different weight, and on different sides than a gun is. A gun is way heavier and a different shape than a taser is. And for you to pull out your gun and shoot somebody and say that you meant to pull out your taser, it just doesn't add up, because a taser is light and a gun, you know, is heavy. So I don't think that was a mistake either. And I feel like she should be charged.
Oh, well, I love these like, you see how they're thoughtful in their responses. I just sent a text to my producer and I said, these young people are amazing. I love talking to you. Kyle, what are your thoughts, honey?
I have to say, I agree with you, Ayana, on Makaya's case to an extent, because I feel like in that moment, the officer had to think, do I stop her or do I let her injure someone else?
Right.
So I feel like I don't know how it could be avoided, because I'm not an officer, but I do think that to an extent he did his job. He or she did their job. In the other case, I think she, as Brandon said, she was a senior officer. So this is something that should just come to her easy. She shouldn't mistake it. So for her to mistake it is very bad. But I also want to look at the other side of the situation, that we have to know what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
And for him to try to run, I feel like she wouldn't have thought to pull out a gun or a taser if he wouldn't have moved.
Yep. You know what? So Michael and I are talking, my producer in the studio, and he says most young people are like you guys if given the chance to be. Do you think, and I'm setting myself up now, do you think we as adults really listen to you? Because I think if we really listened to you and gave you the kinds of platforms that you're having right now, that I think we would alleviate a lot of the things that are going on out here with our young people. Do you feel like as adults we truly listen to you?
No.
Honestly, no, for real. Like, it's not all adults. I know a good handful of adults do listen to us. And Mr. Washington is a good example of an adult that I know that listens to young people's voices. But as a majority, people like that are, you know, that are older than us don't really listen to our voices, and they look at us as immature, or like, you know, that we don't think about the type of situations that go on in this world. But not like most of the time we're subject to it. So I don't understand how we wouldn't have a true opinion on the type of situations. And they think that just because we're young, we don't understand or we can't grasp the situation, but we're the ones not that experience it most of the time. So,
Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I gotta agree with. I have to agree with both Brandon and Ayana. It is a good handful of adults that listen. And like when I was younger, certain situations we were told, like, stay in a child's place, or this doesn't involve you, so you can't speak on it. But like, my mom has always taught me different. Mr. Washington has always taught me different. Even being on here, you've taught us different. To voice our opinion and also back it up, and to learn about what you want to change or what you want changed.
Yes. And I want you to always have an opinion, respectfully have your opinion. And even if they tell you, know your child's place, what you say to yourself is, okay, this is an adult that I can't talk to, right? But you know the ones who will listen to you, like Mr. Washington, which is why bringing everybody together is so cool. I asked you that question because it's one that I ask my sons all the time, and my youngest son would always say, the children that are out here harming themselves and in a state of depression really don't feel like adults are listening to them. So when you say we should listen to you, give me an example of how we could hear you fully and not talk over you.
You know, you have to get that mentality out of your head that, you know, children don't know what they're talking about. Because, you know, I'm sorry to get biblical, but even in the Bible it says, you know, generations get wiser but weaker. Now, I don't know if you know this, but, you know, we know somewhat what we're talking about, but we're pretty sensitive. We're extremely sensitive. But on that note, you know, don't just knock us because of the age difference and that we don't have experience in what we're talking about, because a lot of times we do. You know, people a lot of times not just going to open their mouths and they don't know what they talking about. Nobody wants to look stupid, you know? So don't knock us just because you have an image of what you were like when you were a kid, or what you were raised to what your ideals were when you were being raised. Don't try to throw that on us because either our ideals oppose yours, or that because a lot of times what we say is valid and what we say is factual, and a lot of times adults just don't want to hear it because we're kids. I can only say because they were raised with the saying, stay in a child's place. A child should be seen but not heard. You know, their parents were raised with that mentality, and their parents, you know, goes on and on and on. You know, and I think that the difference with our generation is that, you know, we're not afraid to speak. You know, a lot of people that are in my age bracket, a lot of people that are younger than me are professional activists and go out
and it was
the
because
world.
of you guys why we're having this conversation now about what's happening in the country, right, and in the world. It was young people. It was young people. Even the news media tried to cover it up and was like, oh, well, you know, this is this small disruptive group. And the white children were like, stop it. We're out here with our black peers. You all are going to pay attention to this. It's young people. It is you. Absolutely you. But can I share a little secret with you? I was just like you when I was growing up. I grew up in Jamaica, and they told me children should be seen and not heard. Should be seen and whatever. I got in so much trouble. I was respectful, but I had an opinion, and I felt like I was choking inside if I couldn't voice that opinion. I was 42 when my parents called me to come and see them and apologize to me. My mother said, I'm so glad we didn't kill your spirit, because we were following what everybody told us to do. A child should be seen and not heard. And I wasn't disrespectful, but I had something to say. You know what I'm saying? So I was well-read, always thinking, always. I was in high school having the kind of conversations you guys are having now with my peers, and it was developed, and I was able to thrive through it. That's what I want for all of you. Right? So when you have someone like Mr. Washington who gives you that space, what I'm challenging you to do is continue to talk to the adults that will listen, and help your peers to come along that will say, okay, well, you found somebody that'll listen, maybe we can find somebody that'll listen, because children don't always give it to us adults in the way that we find palpable, but they're giving it to us honestly, and that is what we have to appreciate. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yep.
And Mama, if you don't mind, you know, speaking of young voices, there are two that I would feel bad if I didn't share their voices. Nadir, who I know you know, he always feels bad because he doesn't get out of school till 4. So I'm gonna share his comment. He really wanted to talk about one of the situations. And then we have a 16-year-old young man who really has a difficult time with police in general. And I think I was shocked when he said, in terms of the Micaiah situation, he said, as much as I have a hard time taking any side of a police officer, he actually said that he felt that the officer was doing his job in that sense. And that, you know, sometimes in terms of a reaction, you know, that we're all human too. And that, you know, sometimes, you know, you react fast. And if he didn't, after he saw the video, like, you know, the other young lady may have lost her life too, that somebody would have been gone potentially in that situation. So I wanted to share, you know, that with you. And then Nadir said something that was extremely important. When he watched the video, the comment he put in the chat, he said, what about the young man that was kicking the other girl on the ground? So here we looked at what happened with the officer and Micaiah, but right on the right side of that same video, you see a man or a young man kicking a young lady on the ground. Nadir said, what about that?
Yes. Oh, Lord, let me take a quick break. This is our final break, and then we're going to wrap up, because I'm just loving this, because we're going to talk about what you think a fair sentencing would be for Derek Chauvin. And do you think when police officers are caught doing these kinds of things, even if they're not brought to trial, should they lose their badge permanently? Hold on one second. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Tired of doom scrolling? Discover a new way to social distance with Philadelphia's own Curtis Institute of Music. This spring, Curtis presents more than 24 free virtual concerts. From virtuosic solos to premieres of new orchestra music, the Curtis Institute cultivates world-class artists right here in Philly. Explore thrilling performances delivered straight to your inbox. See, hear, and feel the power of world-class performances by a new generation of musical legends. Join www.curtis.edu/performances.
Spring forward with premium nutrition meals. Enjoy a variety of new exciting entrees along with rewards and referrals program that pays you to eat and tell. As always, everything is chef crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered to your door. Just visit premiumnutritionmeals.com. Word listeners get $10 off 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for May is Living in Color by Tommy Davidson. Be sure to listen live as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, May 11th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have on the line with me the group Bringing Everybody Together, led by Mr. Richard Washington, and we have joining us today Brandon, Ayana, and Kyle. Before we go into our final question of the day, I wanted to share this with you because it just came in. 10 Philadelphia high schools are among the best in Pennsylvania, U.S. News. And so it says here, 10 Philadelphia high schools have been named among the best schools in Pennsylvania, with 2 in the top 10, according to a new ranking from U.S. News and World Report. The top 10 ranked Pennsylvania school was Julia Masterman Secondary School, coming in at 18th overall, and then Central High School was ranked 3rd statewide and number 229 in the nation. Below are the other Philadelphia schools. Academy at Palumbo was number 24 in Pennsylvania. Carver High School, number 35. Girard Academic Music Program, number 49. Hill Friedman World Academy, number 58. Mass Community Charter School, number 83. Franklin Town Charter High School, number 89. Parkway Center City, number 91. And Girls High School, number 97 in the state of Pennsylvania. And so, you know, you want to look at the fact that you do have some schools that are taking names, right, and giving you all what you need to have done, and everything isn't bad in the Philadelphia School District. All right, so last question. What do you think the sentencing of Derek Chauvin should be? And if you've been following the case law, you know that this is his first offense. And when it's your first offense, you're looked at differently in the law. If this was his second or third offense, then they could throw the entire book at him. But what do you think the sentencing should be?
Well, I guess I'll speak first then, because I guess we already know what I'm about to say. I think he needs the max. You know, he needs the max. You know, there's no writing what he did at all. I don't care how different perspective, how you try to look at this. There is no right angle. You know, it's all bad. It's all bad, and you can't even say, well, there was wrong on both sides, because you know there wasn't. there wasn't, and I think he deserves the max. He deserves to serve what he did, and he after he serves that time, then we'll talk. talk about how to move on, about how he should be incorporated into society, what he will do. Then we'll talk about that.
Do you think he should ever be a police officer again? He can't be, right? Now that
No. But I mean, moving on. I mean, by like retrial. I'm so sorry. By retrial and going on into how to incorporate him, because I'm not one to deal grudges. So once you've done your time, that you've done it. I can't be handling no more. I can't be mad anymore. Yes. But I think that right now, after what he's done and the uproar that has come from the country, I think not only for just to have justice, but the best thing for the country right now, so there won't spark another series of protests, would for him to get the next.
All right. Well, thank you, Brandon, for bringing everybody together. Kyle, what are your thoughts? Hold on, Ayana. I just saw your hand. Go ahead, Kyle.
I believe that he should serve the full time. Because when he was on George Floyd's back, he didn't think about whether or not he was human or he couldn't breathe or anything. So why look at him human and why worry about the little amount of time that he could take? Right. I want him to take the full time. I want him to understand that he's being punished for something that he did.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you. Ayana?
I agree with Kyle and Brendan. I feel like he should take the max. But honestly speaking, I don't think that he's going to get the max. Like you said, they take your first trial lightly or whatever, and plus he's white, so he's probably going to get less time for that. Like, the system is messed up, so I don't think that he's going to serve max as much as we probably want him to. And I feel like even if he doesn't and he eventually gets out, I feel like his badge should be taken and he shouldn't be an officer again if he gets out and, he's still alive. Because once you do something like that, there's obviously hatred in your heart, and it just seemed like you're racist. And I think that he might have done what he did to George Floyd multiple times before. He did it before, and then he's going to do it again. So I don't think that he should be an officer again, even if he gets out of jail. And that goes for a lot of the officers that are being charged for cases like this. I don't think that they should be officers again, because that gives them a chance for that to happen again. And I really don't think that they're going to learn their lesson.
Kyle and Brandon. Mr. Washington, the last question is for you. Do you think they should open up the records of police officers who have been disciplined so that we can see what their track record is and figure out? Kyle's like, yep. Kyle's like, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer, mother. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is.
And I have to agree. I didn't know if you were finished your question, but
I just saw Kyle's head was like, no. So, do you think we should open up because right now police officers who have a disciplined record that's sealed. The public doesn't get to see it, right? And oftentimes when they have an infraction at one police department, they can move to another one, and until they get caught up in something that they shouldn't do. And in every police department, they know who the high flyers are. I'm telling you, I've trained enough of them to tell you they know who the high flyers are. So do you think their records should be unsealed when they are disciplined?
First, I was going to use the word unfortunately, but I'm not. Yes, I do. And I'm going to explain why. In leadership, if you lead by example, there won't be a need for things like that to be public. So if you had, and because we know that when you create laws, it goes across the board. Yep. So now if you have leadership in one particular police department and they're exposing or letting people go, or if they're disciplining them or not even letting them be hired when they recognize things, if everybody was consistent, there would be no need. Because sometimes I think as a public, we want and have too much information, which is why we're where we are also.
Right.
But if you're in leadership and you're not doing what it takes, then you need some help from the public to help you figure it out.
Yeah. So Rebecca said this Truxton, she said, my children went to Masterman Girls High, Central, and Carver. They all graduated from college. I am a registered nurse with a master's degree. We all went to public school. Congratulations, Rebecca. Oh, thank you, Ron. She said, it's always a great show, and God continue to bless the Word family, radio station, and all the guests, and your business across the world. Everyone, please be safe. Thank you all so much for bringing everybody together. Mr. Richard Washington, it was such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure every month to have these young people on. You tell me what you want to talk about next month, because Lord knows there's enough going on in this country. Thank you so much for your insightful words. I am getting text messages that this was a great show, that you all were wonderful and insightful, and I am so happy to provide the platform for you to speak your truth, and so that adults can start to realize that we're not listening as much as we possibly could with young people. Have a good month, and we'll see you soon, okay? Bye, darlings. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Take care, Mama, and be sure to wish Brandon a happy birthday on May 8th.
Oh, what? May 8th? Bye. He gone.
Yes,
Bye,
May
I'm
Happy
sorry,
birthday,
May 10th.
Brandon.
I had my daughter's graduation in mind.
What is it, May 10th,
May
Brandon?
10th.
May 10th. Happy birthday when it comes, Brandon. You'll be 14. Bye, Ayana.
Yeah.
Bye, Kyle. Bye-bye. Bye, Mr. Washington. All right, so listen, this was an excellent show. I think I have my best shows. No, I don't think. I know. I have my best shows when I have young people on, and when I'm talking about young people and education and mental health and well-being and what's happening with our elections. All those things matter. And when we stop to pay attention to what's happening around us, with us, and stop, judging. We point so many fingers, and I suspect that if we spend time listening to our young people instead of telling them what they can and can't do, yes, they need boundaries. Don't get me wrong. The children that are all grown up now that are around me who said, well, we saw you coming down the hallway, we were like, oh, Lord, here she comes, right? And it wasn't because I was being mean-spirited to them. They knew that my expectations of them were very high. I had an interview with one who was in NYU, and she said, you literally changed my life. I could cry because these children would just always avoid me. So children, young people, pay attention to your actions, right? And decide whether if you are a good role model for them or not. And so what are we doing? What are we doing here? We tell children what they can't do. We talk about all the violence, but who's hugging these children? Who's telling them that they're worth something? Who's feeding them love and feeding them with great words of, you are wonderful. You can do anything you want to do. You can be as creative as you want to do. Your hands are made for you to do amazing things. If we do not take care of our village of children, they're going to burn it down. We have to stop being myopic and thinking about, we have got to, I'm taking care of my family and I get mine, you get yours. We have got to take care of the entire village. Otherwise, our children are going to burn it down. Coming up next, this evening words with Nick Taliaferro. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.